Chapter 2797. Do you know what he's looking for? Chen Zhao asked. Both of them shook their heads, indicating that they didn't know. Tell me what's special about your hiding place. Then, the two of them told him where they were hiding. What they said was similar to what Body had said. There wasn't anything else that surprised Chen Zhao. However, they said that Milo Tanzik Williams had come to L.A. to find something. Chen Zhao couldn't help but suspect that their goal had never been for L.A.'s benefit. Or rather, the benefit of the gangs in L.A. was secondary. Chen Zhao sent Paul Massey and Darlene Lopez to the headquarters of the supernatural organization. Chen Zhao found Ruan Faxben. Ruan, take a look at these things. Chen Zhao took out the 4 golden armors. Of course, 2 of them were already scrap metal. The other one was still intact, but the main body still had many defects. Only one had stopped because it had used up its divine power, so it was the most intact. These are... Look at the craftsmanship and the magic characteristics. I hope to get a complete report. The more detailed, the better. President, where did these come from? It's related to Olympus, Chen Zhao said. Apparently, they were created by Ares, the god of war. They're called holy armors, but according to people who know, they seem to be made by a human. At the same time, Chen Zhao told him about the battle with the holy armors. At the same time, he explained his understanding of the 4 divine armors. How long do you need to study them? Chen Zhao looked at Ruan Faxben, who was flipping through the 4 armors. I need to see the technical content of these things first. I can't give you any information right now, nor can I confirm how long I need. Chen Zhao found a place to sit down. He wasn't in a hurry. He didn't have any useful information at hand, so there was no point in being anxious. After half an hour, Ruan Faxben finally put down his research and turned to Chen Zhao. Leader, this isn't a popular alchemy technique at the moment. The magic runes, vein patterns, and the application of mana are very special and novel. Mana can also be used, but the function of mana is very weak against this kind of magic armor. I estimate that under normal circumstances, using mana at full power would only achieve a success rate of 10%. That's not strange. Divine power should be more advanced than magic. Guild leader, do you want to test your mana? Chen Zhao didn't use magic power, but immortal power. Ruan Faxi did not know much about this. However, he knew that Chen Zhao's mana was very different from normal people's. How? I'll make a simple mana connection device first. You can then channel your mana into the magic armor through the mana connection device. Sure. Chen Zhao waited for Ruan Faxben to finish the magic connection device. Following Roland's instructions, he channeled his mana into the magic armor. This magic armor was the only one that remained intact. In an instant, a bright light flashed through the gaps of the magic armor. However, most of the light was blocked by the armor. But through the gap, he could still see the light inside. However, it was different from the golden light from before. At this moment, the inside of the magic armor was glowing with a green light. However, the moment the magic armor was activated, it suddenly threw a punch at Chen Zhao. Caught off guard, Chen Zhao was punched in the face and took a few steps back. What the hell? Guild leader, this is the setting of the magic armor. The energy supply has changed, but the program won't change. Guild leader, control this thing first. I'll try to see if I can change the setting. Chen Zhao controlled the magic armor, just like before. If he controlled it, it would use up more energy. Before long, it would lose power again. However, Chen Zhao was the one who provided it now, so he could give it energy at any time. When Chen Zhao controlled the magic armor, he realized that the things seemed to be stronger. Did this mean that his immortal power was of a higher level? This made Chen Zhao feel a little pleased. Ruan Faxben kept trying. Chen Zhao could not understand what he was doing. As the saying went, different professions were worlds apart. In terms of power, Chen Zhao was miles ahead of Ruan Faxben. But in terms of alchemy, Ruan Faxben was a solar system ahead of Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao only understood 1 or 2 of Ruan Faxben's 10 steps. For example, he could brand new runes on the armor. Okay, guild leader, let go and try. Chen Zhao loosened his grip on the magic armor. As expected, the magic armor did not continue attacking. Have you completely controlled it? No, I just erased its original magic commands. Ruan Faxben shook his head. As for how to write new magic commands, I have no idea. I need to study ancient Greek. Chen Zhao knocked on the magic armor, but it didn't react at all. It looked like a dead object. Chen Zhao raised his hand and started pressing on the magic armor through the air. There was still no reaction. Guild leader, you'll destroy this thing completely. Ruan Faxben stopped Chen Zhao from doing anything further. Fine. Chen Zhao let go of the magic armor. The magic armor that had been loosened fell to the ground like a piece of scrap metal, and the magic metal on its body let out a metallic cry. Then Chen Zhao went to find West. He told him about his gains today. Guild leader, you're saying that the English gang is actually looking for something? Yes, we don't know what it is yet. But if we can get it first, we might be able to take the initiative. But we don't even know what they're looking for. No, it's not like we don't have any clues. First, consider their identity. Since it's related to Ares, the god of war from Olympus, what they're looking for is probably related to Olympus too. Check all the museums and private collectors in LA to see if they have anything related to Olympus. Of course, it might also be related to ancient Greece. That's a good direction to investigate, but it'll probably be very troublesome. After all, the people who can collect these things probably have a strong background. Even we can't easily snatch their collection. Let's investigate first. We don't have any clues right now, so it's useless to think too much. Even if we can't get the collection, we can at least monitor it. If they use violent methods to snatch it, we won't be unresponsive. Chapter 2798. In the next 3 days, many things happen in LA. Even the police, who had headaches when it came to gangs, were dumbfounded by these events. The gang leaders were killed one by one. Of course, every time something like this happened, it wasn't just one gang leader who died. Most of the time, it was a brutal massacre. If it was less than 2 digits, then it might be considered mild. Of course, this also attracted the attention of the other big bosses of the gangs. Most of the big bosses of the gangs were on high alert. Some cowardly ones turned themselves into the police. This kind of mafia boss who sought the police's protection was indeed quite fresh and refined. But this couldn't guarantee their safety. The deaths continued. Even the police couldn't save their lives. The police didn't even know how the gang leader they were protecting died. They only knew that he suffocated to death. But the gang leader protected by the police didn't fall into the water. Plus, he wasn't in a confined space. No one could figure out what had happened, except for the people involved. Bodhi wasn't the one who did it. Bodhi was strong, but he couldn't suffocate someone from afar. Chen Zhao was the one who did it. But Chen Zhao made the gang leader's death the same as Bodhi's. Of course, it was to make people think that Bodhi was the one who did it. Bodhi killed until LA became a river of blood. His younger brother, Tim, was in charge of taking over the empty territories. As for those who didn't listen, or those who thought that the boss was dead, the second boss could take over. Of course, Bodhi would do a second sweep. Of course, the mastermind behind all this was none other than Chen Zhao. It was Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao still firmly believed that, as long as he killed until blood flowed, he would definitely be able to return peace to the world. There weren't many people in the world who weren't afraid of death. At least, Bodhi and Tim weren't stubborn people. The police didn't even dare to announce the number of gang deaths every day. If they really dared to announce it, it might really cause chaos or even upheaval. These 3 days were the toughest. 3 days later, the situation suddenly improved. The number of gang deaths dropped, because the gang leaders were all afraid of death, although they said that they lived a life of blood on the edge of a knife. However, they had never experienced such a terrifying experience of a bloody storm. Every day, a few gang leaders were killed, plus Tim's activities. No matter how stupid they were, they knew that this was a fight for territory. In the past, they might have struggled a little, but now they could only hope that they could escape the trap and leave the group. Tim probably hadn't even thought about it. One day, he could rule over all of Los Angeles, become the underground king of Los Angeles. Of course, he would be even happier if Chen Zhao wasn't here. Chen Zhao was the real boss behind the scenes. In fact, Chen Zhao had been the main attacker for the past few days. Most of the time, he was by Chen Zhao's side. He told Chen Zhao about every power and boss on the streets. Of course, he had also witnessed Chen Zhao's cruel side. Most of the time, Chen Zhao's attacks weren't bloody, but strange. Chen Zhao would choose to do it indoors and in private places. He wouldn't do it in crowded places like restaurants or theaters. Or perhaps he could create some accidents. For example, when a gang leader was driving, his car suddenly rushed over the railing and fell into the sea 20 to 30 meters high. When he was fished out, it was already completely cold. This was considered normal, but he had also seen some deaths that were extremely abnormal. He saw a gang leader crying while hanging himself on a crooked tree. In 5 days, Tim had completely taken control of all the gangs in Los Angeles. He also received a resounding title, Emperor of Darkness. This title sounded like a big boss, but Tim himself was very careful. He was afraid that he would be like those gang leaders and receive a free lunch for no reason. So, he would carry out and complete all of Chen Zhao's orders with 120% attitude. Although there had been a bloody storm in Los Angeles in the past 5 days, but soon, peace came. No matter how loud the objections were, Tim insisted on carrying out Chen Zhao's orders. Los Angeles had to stabilize. Those who were unwilling and still wanted to take advantage of the situation were basically gathered by Tim. Then, they were taken over by Chen Zhao to participate in the reclamation project. The people who were most surprised by the change in the situation in Los Angeles weren't the citizens or the police, but the news media. Recently, the media had been focusing on the vicious cases that had happened that day. However, it was as if all the vicious cases had disappeared overnight. Even the so-called normal crime rate seemed to have disappeared. Even the dark streets had become brand new. Of course, the media didn't know what had happened, but the police did. They found out that it was Tim. But no matter how deep they investigated, they couldn't find anything. The information they had on Tim was still stuck at the time when he was just a hooligan. They guessed that there was someone behind him, but they couldn't find out who it was. To their relief, Tim's principles were similar to the Wild Boar King in the past. He was also doing illegal things, but at least he wouldn't let his subordinates smash things in public. President, the situation in Los Angeles is under control, West said. In the past few days, he'd cooperated and used political power to suppress the police's investigation. Yes, it's about time. Chen Zhao nodded. Next, gather those scumbags and pour gasoline on them, or send them to Africa to dig for diamonds. President, I think it's better to keep them. We're spiritualists, not gangs. They're a good source of information. We don't need to pay them. We just need to pass on our requests, and they'll bring us the information we need, at least in Los Angeles. This is different from my original intention. My original intention was to get rid of all the scumbags. I just suddenly feel that they're a good source of information. Plus, President, they can't be killed all. If China can, why can't LA? The political system is different. The main body of government in China has nothing to do with gangs, but this is the United States. Almost every politician is more or less involved with those scumbags. Do you know how many politicians have contacted Tim these days? Chapter 2799. West didn't have much interest in gangs at first. Or rather, he naturally looked down on them. But in the past few days, he realized that it was so convenient to control a gang. They might not be of much help, but it was so easy to gather information. Not only that, but they also had some ways to get magic materials. That was why West had risen up. He wanted to keep the gangs in L.A. and control them completely. Even if you kill all the gangs in L.A., new ones will appear in less than 3 months. To put it bluntly, it's a product of market demand. That's because you didn't kill enough and weren't ruthless enough, Chen Zhao said. You won't have a chance like this every time. President, you can slaughter the gangs as you please. The government also needs to consider the stability of the situation. West seemed to have guessed Chen Zhao's thoughts. He continued, President, this place will never have the same environment as China. Chen Zhao's idea was to make L have the same social environment as China. Girls wouldn't be in danger walking on the streets at night. The shops wouldn't close at 4 in the afternoon. But this could only exist in Chen Zhao's imagination. There was almost no possibility of it being realized. Chen Zhao planned to use slaughter to achieve peace. Unless Chen Zhao was willing to expose his identity and stand against the government. He wanted to show his power to the world and announce his stance. Otherwise, Chen Zhao's plan would never be realized. Humans were creatures that pursued profit. No matter how terrifying the legends were in L.A., they would only be legends. As long as there were benefits, humans wouldn't be scared off by mere legends. So, Chen Zhao's plan was just a dream. President, actually controlling those gangs in our hands is the safest choice. Instead of letting them grow wildly, why don't we draw a circle around them and restrict their growth? At the same time, we can make them work for us. Fine, I won't care about this anymore. Do as you see fit. Things didn't go as he wished, but Chen Zhao knew that he couldn't do whatever he wanted. He still had to consider the bigger picture. How's the investigation going? When the England gang ruled Los Angeles for a short time, they did give orders to the other vassal gangs to collect information about ancient Greek relics. They collected all kinds of information and did not point to anything. So I suspect that even the person who gave the order to the England gang did not know what he was looking for, West said helplessly. So, we only have one general direction now. We only know that they are looking for ancient Greek relics or something from Olympian mythology. As for what exactly they are looking for, we don't know. Is that what you mean? Yes, West nodded. This was very difficult. Even the England team did not know what to look for. Even if these people wanted to set up a trap, there was nothing they could do. West said, I have an idea, but I'm not sure if it will work. What idea? Let's assume that if the English gang doesn't know what they're looking for, then can we fabricate such a thing out of thin air and then release it through the gangs or the media to lure the English gang into the trap? Chen Zhao raised an eyebrow. West was a sly old fox. He could even think of such a method. How do we do it exactly? First, through the media, publish some supernatural reports, and then direct the reports to the thing we set up. It's best if we find some researchers to publish some related comments. Then, through the gangs, we can send some mixed news so that the English gang cannot tell the truth from the lies. The plan seemed good, but there was a big problem. Such a complicated plan had a big premise. The English gang did not know what they were looking for. This was all West's own guess based on the information he had. If the English gang had a clear goal, then they would be like clowns amusing themselves by doing this. Of course, they had no better idea at the moment. Then what do you think we should use to disguise it as an ancient Greek relic? To attract enough attention, we definitely need a magic tool. Or we can get Ruan Faxburn to make a magic tool. It's best if it's far away from Los Angeles. It can't be near Los Angeles. Otherwise, if a war breaks out, the impact will be very bad. See? How about it? Chen Zhao asked. It's possible, but what could be discovered in the sea? It feels too deliberate. Then put it far away. Don't put it near Los Angeles. You can even put it in Mexican or Canadian waters. Then what should we put it in? It definitely needs some strange phenomenon to be discovered. Then find a small island. Are there any uninhabited islands in the Mexican waters that we can use as a discovery site? Then we can create some strange phenomena on the island or get some media to go there. No, it's best to make it look like it was discovered by accident, West said. West said, since it's a trap, we can't make it too obvious. Everything has to be an accident. The two started planning carefully. First, they decided to use a magic tool. Second, they had to change the media to the recording site of a variety show. Chen Zhao had to contact someone for this. He had to find a show about survival in the wild and have them go to the island to record the show. Then, they would accidentally discover a divine item left behind from ancient times. Because the show was going to be broadcasted on TV, they couldn't make too many strange phenomena. It'd be best if it looked right, but wasn't. If it was broadcasted on TV, it would only cause controversy and not panic. As for how they were going to create such a strange phenomenon, that would depend on their standards. Since the plan was made, the next step was to implement it. Chen Zhao didn't have many connections in this area, although he knew some people in Hollywood. Those people in Hollywood made movies. They had nothing to do with variety shows. Of course, it was good that this was America. There was nothing that money couldn't solve. If there really was, it was only because they didn't have enough money. Wes wanted to find Rowan Faxburn to see if he could create a magic tool that met their requirements. Chen Zhao contacted Stephen and asked him to help pull some strings to contact the TV station. However, Chen Zhao had to discuss the details personally. Chapter 2800. Mirror Lake Manor welcomed a guest. Hello, Mr. Chun. I'm the consul of SC Broadcasting Corporation. You can call me Scully. SC Broadcasting Corporation wasn't one of the 5 major broadcasting media groups in America. In fact, it was a small company. It mainly operated a local TV station in California. Its coverage was also extremely limited. Of course, SCTV still had a certain market share in California. This also ensured that they wouldn't starve to death. Of course, this scale of coverage and market share also meant that they wouldn't have a good life. In the end, Chen Zhao decided on SCTV because it was enough. Even if he had to find the 5 major TV stations and give them more money, their answers might not be better than SCTV's. They would also be easier to communicate with. This was because part of Dash and Beer's advertisement was also given to SCTV. Mr. Chun, I heard that you have business to discuss with our TV station, right? Scully asked. Can you make any decision? I'm a consul. As long as we're not talking about selling the TV station, I have the right to make decisions. I'd like to ask, Chen Zhao asked. Does your TV station have any plans to produce outdoor variety shows? No plans for now, Scully said, shaking his head. Then if I need you to produce such a show and broadcast it while producing, how much will it cost? Chen Zhao asked. Mr. Chun, this isn't in our plan. It'll affect our show's broadcast plan. I don't want to discuss this with you. I'm asking, how much will it cost? Mr. Chun, I'm afraid we really can't work together. When Scully stood up, Chen Zhao still looked at him calmly. Dash and Beer will broadcast on another TV station next season, Chen Zhao said calmly. Scully, who was about to leave, stopped and looked at Chen Zhao in shock. Mr. Chun, this will probably affect Dash and Beer's sales. SC isn't the only TV station in Los Angeles, Chen Zhao said disapprovingly. Even if you find any of the 5 major TV stations, it'll only cost 1 or 2 million more. In fact, Dash and Beer's commercial has already been broadcast on those TV stations. To me, it'll just increase the duration of the commercial. In Los Angeles, you could really do whatever you wanted with money. In addition, the money your TV station owes Citibank will start to collect from you next month. For the current Chen Zhao, he didn't need to use any other methods to coerce SCTV. In his eyes, SCTV was just a small group. All he had to do was call his financial butler. SC television station would be under pressure from all sides. Mr. Chun, it's just business cooperation. There's no need for it to escalate to business oppression. Sure, Kelly's expression was very ugly. I'm stating a fact. Chen Zhao shrugged. Although I might not actually do what I said later, I just want to tell you that you need to learn a compromise when necessary. In fact, it wouldn't be difficult for him to buy SCTV. However, as a Chinese, if Chen Zhao wanted to buy a TV station, even if it was just a local one, the government would still intervene. Chen Zhao only wanted to produce and broadcast a show, so he didn't need to spend so much money on a TV station. Okay, Mr. Chun, let's talk about the details of our cooperation. Scully sat down before Chen Zhao again. Just as Chen Zhao had said, compromise was sometimes the best choice. First, let's talk about the production cost, Sure Kelly said. What kind of wilderness show do you plan to produce? Survival type? Or exploration type? Or a science and education program? Sure Kelly didn't ask why Chen Zhao wanted to produce such a show. Why did he have to broadcast it on a TV station? The world of the rich was like this. All kinds of weird ideas were possible. All 3 are fine, Chen Zhao asked. Which one has the largest audience? Survival and exploration type of shows are the mainstream right now. They have a large audience. In the past few years, our TV station has also thought about producing these kinds of shows, but we're limited by the coverage of the TV station. It's hard to match the investment and profits, so we gave up on the idea. How much does it cost to produce these 2 types of shows? Tell me a range. That depends on what level Mr. Chun is planning to do. It could be hundreds of thousands or even millions of USD. It could also be millions or tens of millions of USD. It depends on whether the show is broadcasted, whether the guests are ordinary people or celebrities, or if he directly invites a professional team of this type. Then, I want the best production and a professional team, Chun Zhao said. Excellent production costs at least 5 million USD. A professional team costs about 1 million USD. If it's a famous team, the price will double. At the same time, according to the number of episodes, the production cost of each episode will increase by about 1 million USD. Mr. Chun, is it convenient for you to reveal the specific content of the program? Exploration type. Search for and discover some lost relics, the kind they're not famous but are scattered all over the American continent. However, they have not been completely destroyed by modern civilization. Find the relics through some folklore. There is such a small island in the Mexican Sea, and the residents along the coast have some legends about the relics of this island. My request is that the first issue be about this island and the relics. Kelly thought for a while. Mr. Chun, your idea is not bad. The process of exploration and deciphering can indeed attract a lot of viewers, but the cost. With the influence of our television station, it will be very difficult to recoup the cost of an exploration program of this scale. Also, if we change our program's broadcast plan, Mr. Chun will need to compensate us. That's not a problem. I just want to know how much investment is needed. Mr. Chun, how many episodes do you plan to produce? Let's follow the standard and produce 12 episodes, Chun Zhao said. As for the compensation to your TV station, 5 million and a 3-year advertising contract with Dash and Beer. Also, count the show as me renting the broadcast time. The normal fee is enough. Kelly laughed. He knew that Chun Zhao would be so generous. He wouldn't have been so hostile just now. Of course, since I'm paying to produce and broadcast, the copyright belongs to me. Also, I want 80% of the advertising revenue. No problem, right? Of course, no problem. Chapter 28:01. Although Shackley was a greedy businessman, he was at least organized. Shackley was a greedy businessman. Chun Zhao was paying for the production and rental of the broadcast time. This time slot belonged to Chun Zhao, so it was normal that most of the income belonged to Chun Zhao. The time belonged to Chun Zhao. It was normal that most of the income belonged to Chun Zhao. It seemed that Chun Zhao had something to ask of them. In reality, Chun Zhao was the leader. They weren't the only TV station, but they were tightly controlled by Chun Zhao. So, if Shackley dared to make any excessive requests, Chun Zhao wouldn't be ruthless, ignoring everything else, just Chun Zhao's Citibank pressuring them. They wouldn't be able to breathe. A media company like SCTV station didn't starve to death, but most of the time, they owed the bank a lot of money. They were the type that would pay when they had money in one season. If they didn't have money in the next season, they wouldn't pay for now. The bank's tightening policy was a matter of life and death for them. Once the bank tightened its policy, they might have to eat dirt for an entire season. As for whether Chun Zhao had the influence to influence the bank, no, he definitely could. Just the manner in front of him, plus the dozens of luxury cars in the garage when he parked the car. He kept talking about the production cost of millions and tens of millions. With so much spare money, his assets could definitely be multiplied by 100 times. This is a check for 20 million. Of course, you can't cash it now. You have to wait until the contract is signed, Chun Zhao said. My lawyer will contact you tomorrow. Okay, I understand. As for the final production price, I'll refund any overpayment and make up for any shortfall. Okay, that's it for now, Chun Zhao said. I need to go back and do some preparations. I won't disturb you anymore. Please. Then, Chun Zhao contacted Alex and asked her to help draft the contract. Chun, I'm your lawyer, not your assistant, Alex said, somewhat annoyed. So you need to give me extra compensation. Isn't my business within your scope? I'm only responsible for giving you legal aid and advice. I can't help you draft the contract or calculate the budget. What's the difference? If you have any questions about the contract, or if you need to reconfirm the contract when you sign it, I can help. But if you want to draft the contract, that's too much. But neither of my assistants knows how to do it. Don't talk to me about them. Are they your assistants? I think they are more like your nannies. Alex was speechless. Chun Zhao had used an assistant as a nanny and a lawyer as an assistant. Forget it. I'll introduce you to a legal assistant, a girl. Chun Zhao thought for a moment and asked, other than law, what other services could she provide me? If you're willing to pay a higher salary, you can use her as a babysitter. How much is it? She's still an intern who just graduated. Her monthly salary doesn't need to exceed $10,000. 10,000 US dollars? Intern? Is the salary requirement for law graduates that high? No, it's just because she graduated from Harvard and she doesn't mind being a part-time nanny. All right then, when can she report? Anytime. Let her sign the contract first. Chun Zhao agreed right away and added another assistant. Alex was a reliable person, so Chun Zhao trusted her judgment. After all, Zephyr and Portia were indeed not enough for now. Zephyr was fine. She was hardworking enough. On the other hand, Portia was much more lazy. She worked hard every 2 days, if not for the fact that she still owed Chun Zhao a huge sum of money. Chun Zhao really wanted to make her eat dirt. The next morning, Portia and Zephyr came. Then, an unfamiliar young girl appeared. She had waist-length blonde hair and was not tall. She was probably only 160 centimeters. She looked like she was in her early 20s, but she was actually 25. She was a rare kind of immaturity among Caucasians. Chun Zhao had seen her information. Alex had sent it to him last night. She was a top student from Harvard Law School. Alex had also said a few more things about her. Apparently, she owed Alex a huge sum of money. When she was an intern, she also had 3 part-time jobs, including being a clerk at a 24-hour convenience store. Alex knew that she needed money urgently, which is why she dumped her to Chun Zhao. You Navika Lena? Yes, Mr. Chun. Ms. Alex recommended me to come here. What did Alex tell you? How much is the salary here? No vacation, Navika Lena said. If needed, I'll be available 24/7. I can do whatever you need me to do. The weekly salary is $3,500. If I can do this job in half a year, I can ask for a 150% raise. Chun Zhao thought for a moment. It was much higher than what Alex had told him before. So, Chun Zhao did not agree immediately. Do you know that your current salary request has already exceeded the income of most middle-class families? And you're asking for a 150% raise in half a year? This means that your monthly income will exceed $20,000. Even most lawyers don't earn as much as you do. Other than a law degree, I also have a degree in financial management. I'm also the champion of California's women's mixed martial arts competition. I can also be your bodyguard. I also have a racing license, a non-commercial pilot's license, and a diving license. I was also a member of the national shooting team, although I never participated in the Olympics. Chun Zhao grinned. So you're pretty good fighting? Navika Lena remembered that when she came in, she saw some fitness equipment scattered in the yard. There were sandbags hanging under the tree poles, as well as wooden dummies. It seemed that her boss was also a fitness and fighting enthusiast. Sir, I'm the champion of the women's division. I'm confident that my skills are better than anyone else's, but my skills aren't enough to make up for my weakness. So, if you want to fight with me, I can only make you look bad. I can't guarantee that I can beat you. Navika Lena's meaning was simple. If a man like you fought with me, I might not win, but I could make your face blossom. She felt that as long as Chun Zhao had some dignity, he wouldn't ask to fight with her. Do you think you can beat her? Chun Zhao pointed at Zephyr, who was watching TV with Portia. Her? Navika Lena looked at Zephyr. The girl looked even younger than her. Of course, yes. Zephyr, Chun Zhao called. When Zephyr heard Chun Zhao's call, she was still dumbfounded. You guys can talk. Why are you talking about me? Don't you know that I've already retired? Boss, what's up? Chun Zhao looked at Navika and said, as long as you can beat her, I can give you a 150% raise right now. Of course, if you can't do it, I'll cancel the 150% raise after half a year. How does that sound? Navika nodded. Chapter 28:02. Navika looked at Refra's body, which looked even thinner than her. When she'd participated in the mixed martial arts competition in California, she'd relied on her body to trick her opponents and win. But she couldn't tell that Refra knew how to fight too. In the end, Refra glanced at Navika. Don't fight. You're bullying me. Boss, you're a respectable person. You shouldn't do such a despicable thing. With that, Refra sat back down in front of the TV. What Refra said was what she was thinking. Chun Zhao was too shameless. They weren't on the same level at all. California women's mixed martial arts competition? To Refra, that was like a kindergarten competition. Navika had heard Refra say that she wouldn't fight. She'd thought that Refra was scared of her. But why did she feel that something wasn't right? The girl seemed to be saying that Refra was bullying her. She didn't sound like she was bullying her. Chun Zhao wasn't bullying her. Girl, I won't bully you. If you could trip me, I'll lose. How's that? Navika didn't want to bully Refra at first. Mainly, she was envious of Chun Zhao's conditions. If she won, she could get a 150% raise. $20,000 a month was such a generous income. Even if she worked as a lawyer for 10 years, she might not have such a high salary. But now, if she won against this girl, she could have it immediately. She was very tempted. Just then, Portia was interested too. Boss, if Refra wins, how about I get a raise? How's that? Huh? You want to eat shit, right? Refra looked at Navika and reminded her kindly. Navika, you can't beat me. Navika suddenly approached Refra. We'll know after we fight. Chun Peiran looked at the aggressive Navika Lena with great interest. He didn't expect this woman to be so aggressive. Navika didn't know where Refra came from. If she were in the ring, she would most likely be knocked down by a punch. But she felt that Refra was easy to deal with, as long as she defeated Refra cleanly. Then, he would directly become a high-paid person. In the end, Zafra, who didn't want to fight at first, saw Navika Lena's aggressiveness. He grabbed Navika Lena's right arm with one hand, choked her neck with the other, and lifted her into the air with one hand. Ah, put her down, put her down. Portia cried out hurriedly. Zephyr would strangle Navika Lena to death by holding her neck in the air. At this moment, Navika's legs were kicking wildly. She was dumbfounded. How would she know what kind of person Zephyr was? In the past, even the strongest opponents she had encountered could not lift someone in the air with one hand. How much strength would that require? Even for a man, it was rare for a man to do this to a woman. Zephyr gently put Navika on the ground. Navika Lena did not continue to attack. To be honest, Refra's attack had completely destroyed her worldview. Zephyr's slender figure and her on-the-spot reflexes and strength did not match her size at all. Navika Lena knew that the girl in front of her was much stronger than her. Even in the Olympics, she would probably be a king-level figure. Navika Lena, I'm glad you joined. Your salary will be fixed in a short time. You don't have any objections, right? Chen Zhao smiled at Navika Lena. Navika Lena wanted to cry. How could she be so hot-headed as to agree? Half a year is fine. It wasn't that long. Now, her request for a raise was killed in the cradle. Navika Lena wanted to open her mouth several times to deny the bet. In the end, Chun Zhao's words killed her thoughts. If you don't agree with this result, please leave. Navika Lena was helpless. What else could she do? Even her current salary far exceeded the salary she received as an intern by Alex's side. Even a normal lawyer would only get this much. So, she could only accept this result. There was no other choice. Although Navika Lena was no longer passionate, she still had to do what she had to do. In the beginning, Navika Lena was a little unhappy with Zephyr, but she soon got over it. Even if she had to blame someone, she should blame Chun Zhao for digging a hole for her. Zephyr reminded herself. She was the one who was greedy. After a day, Navika Lena was already familiar with Portia and Zephyr. There was no barrier. When women were together, they always got along quickly. If they didn't get along, they would reconcile. If they didn't, they would break up. When they were close, they would live and die together. When they weren't, they would want each other to die on the spot. In the afternoon, Scully came with his secretary. The secretary was also as pretty as a flower. Her eyes were like peach blossoms. She even carried some fragrant dust when she walked. She was probably just for show. After entering the Mirror Lake Manor, the secretary kept throwing flirtatious glances at Chen Zhao. Of course, Chen Zhao wasn't really interested in her. Mr. Scully, here's the contract. Please take a look. Okay. Scully and the secretary started looking at the contract. Most of the time, this female secretary was not doing the work of secretary. However, she was still more serious when she was working. When Scully asked about the terms of the contract, the secretary could give him an accurate explanation. Chen Zhao retracted his previous thoughts. It seemed that the secretary was really talented. Because they'd already discussed the details yesterday, the contract didn't deviate from the agreement. Chen Zhao didn't hide any traps in the contract either. So, the signing process was quite smooth. Scully hadn't finished the budget report yet, but it was estimated that it wouldn't exceed $20 million. A show worth $20 million was already a big production no matter where it was. Under normal circumstances, SCTV wouldn't invest so much money into a show without market research. But now, they had a financial backer like Chen Zhao and Scully's help. So the project ran very quickly. After signing the contract, it was completed in less than a day. According to Chen Zhao's request, the sooner the project was done, the better. If SCTV dragged it for 3 to 5 months, it would probably be too late. This was where the benefits of money were shown. There was nothing that money couldn't solve. If there was, it could only be because they didn't have enough money. In 3 days, the production team was almost gathered. They were ready to start filming at any time. On the other hand, Rouen France's progress wasn't that ideal. Chapter 28:03. Rouen, when did you become so useless? You can't even make a simple magic tool? Is our request that hard to fulfill? Chen Zhao reprimanded Rouen Faxben. His and West's requirements weren't too high, right? Was it really that hard to fulfill? It matched the weapons of the ancient Greeks. It could glow and give people pressure. It could trigger wind, water, thunder, fire, and so on. It didn't need to be too big. After all, they wanted to use it to film exploratory shows, not supernatural ones. They also didn't want to use it to create panic. President, apart from a glow, the other requirements are hard to fulfill. You even want to gather them on one thing. I think I'm pretty good, but I'm not invincible yet. Chen Zhao pursed his lips in disdain. Last time, when I gave you an alchemy book, you said that you were confident you could become the best alchemist in half a year. There's not much time left. I feel like you're still far from being the best alchemist. One of them, Rouen added. Also, where did you get that alchemy book? Some of the materials needed for alchemy are unheard of. That's why my progress is slower than planned. Chen Zhao rolled his eyes. He'd gotten that alchemy book from the chief alchemist of his territory in Hell, Felt Nitak. Most of the alchemy spells recorded in the alchemy books were unique to the infernal realm. Naturally, most of the materials needed were from Hell. It would be strange if Rouen Faxi could get it. Also, it's a bit difficult to make a magic tool that matches the ancient Greeks' taste. The style is also difficult. The appearance of the magic tool also needs to match the alchemy array and rune, Rouen said. Rouen Faxbin said, that's also why there's such a huge difference in the style of magic props between different countries. It's because every country or civilization has a huge difference in their magic civilization. It's very difficult to create something that matches the standard of the Huaxia supernatural world, but has the same function as the European supernatural world. Rouen Farsbin looked at Chen Zhao helplessly. I know nothing about ancient Greek alchemy. I don't even know ancient Greek. It's almost impossible to create a magic tool that fits the requirements in such a short time. Rouen Farsbin looked at Chen Zhao helplessly. Chen Zhao felt a headache coming on. Originally, he thought that Rouen Fazabin would have the least problems. His request wasn't that high, right? He wasn't asking him to create a divine artifact. He didn't even need it to be powerful. To put it bluntly, Chen Zhao's requests were just to lighten the mood. In actual combat, it was not much stronger than a fire stick. But even so, Rouen Faxi still had a headache. Time waits for no one. The communication with SCTV was almost done. The filming would start in 2 days. After many investigations, Chen Zhao and West had already locked onto a deserted island in the Mexican Sea. There are some ancient ruins on that deserted island. The natives along the coast also spread some specious legends. They planned to use the program's production team to process and package those legends, steer the conversation toward the Olympian myth. Of course, they also discussed that this was the American continent. It was a Pacific Ocean away from the Olympian myths. The civilization and culture of the two were not in the same system. Therefore, it was impossible to directly name the Olympian mythology. It was just a specious point of view. Moreover, myths and legends had a lot of literary elements to begin with. Therefore, many illogical things could resonate with people as long as they were explained properly. But now, they lacked this important prop. It would greatly reduce the effect of the show. It was fine if the effect was greatly reduced. Their original intention was to attract the English gang. If they couldn't achieve this effect, all their previous investments would be for nothing. As for the final success or failure of the show, Chun Zhao didn't really care. Chun Zhao thought for a moment and took out his black trident. "What do you think of this?" Chun Zhao asked. Ruan Faxbin was stunned for a moment. Of course, he knew that this was Chun Zhao's weapon. But Chun Zhao rarely took out his own weapon. Ruan Faxi reached out to take the black trident. But before his palm could touch it, a great feeling of terror surged into his heart. Before his hand stopped, he was already grabbing the black trident. The next moment, a terrifying power spread from his fingers to his entire body. Ruan Faxibin was sent flying. He was still coughing up blood in the air. Then his body smashed through the wall, and he fell from the second floor. Chun Zhao hurriedly put away the black trident. The moment he jumped down, he checked on Ruan Faxi's situation. There were also quite a few people who heard the noise and looked down. They saw Ruan Faxi's terrible state and Chun Zhao jumping down. He had thought that Ruan had done something to piss Chun Zhao off and had been thrown down the stairs. Ruan Faxi was in a terrible state. All his bones were broken. When Chun Zhao helped Ruan up, his entire body was limp. He wouldn't die, but if there were no accidents, he wouldn't be able to escape paralysis. Chun Zhao chuckled bitterly. He could only take responsibility for his own trouble. Ruan Faxi couldn't say anything either. He knew that Chun Zhao didn't do it on purpose. But he was the first one to break the record. He was the first to be heavily injured by Chun Zhao. "Ruan, it's fine. Just lie down for half a month. You won't die, and there won't be any side effects." "President, can you not take out such a dangerous thing next time?" Ruan Faxi wanted to cry. He should have known that Chun Zhao could use it as a weapon. Let's not talk about the quality first. At the very least, its lethality was definitely not comparable to ordinary weapons. As expected, he didn't even touch it and almost died. Luckily, he reacted quickly and only suffered light injuries with all his bones broken. I promise. Speaking of which, can that weapon be used as the Sea King's trident? If I paint it gold, it should work, right? It can also control water. Ruan Faxi really wanted to yell, "I'm already so injured. Can we not talk about this?" "President, can you suppress the black trident's aura? If you take it out, just the pressure alone will make a normal person have a heart attack within 100 meters. You can't even get a normal person to take a panoramic view of your weapon with a camera." I can't do that." Chun Zhao was helpless too. Ever since Old Turtle had modified this thing, it had changed. Ever since Old Turtle modified this thing, even Chun Zhao couldn't control it completely. Chapter 2804. Hello, Mr. Chun. I'm the director of the film crew, Fallowy Lysander. Hello, Mr. Scully has told you, right? Fallowy Lysander was a bearded man in his 60s, but he didn't look too old. On the contrary, he had the vigor of a dragon and a fierce tiger. He was the director of the field film crew hired by SCTV. The entire production team belonged to Fallowy Lysander alone. They had filmed many documentaries and exploratory programs, and they had even won many awards. Among them, there's also an exploration show that had once won the annual viewership ratings of exploration shows. Therefore, they were quite famous in the industry and were a very professional production team. Inviting them to film 12 episodes of the Lost Civilization exploration program cost Qinzhao $5 million. There were a total of 25 people in the production team. Each of them had their own area of expertise, including the host. The Lost Civilization had a total of 12 episodes, with 3 episodes forming one unit. The first unit was naturally a deserted island in Mexico. That island was called Gondu Island. Decades ago, there were still some Mexican indigenous tribes living there. However, because of Gondu Island's harsh environment and lack of supplies, Gondu Island's population was limited. Therefore, the Aboriginal tribes on the island either moved to the nearby coastline or died of old age on Gondu Island. The residents of the nearby coastline also spread some legends about Gondu Island. A few of the older generation had lived on Gondu Island. They belonged to the group of people who directly entered the civilized society from primitive society. Therefore, they still retained many of the tribal customs and legends. Of course, their filming plan was to first interview the elderly who had migrated inland from Gondu Island. Then, he would go to Gondu Island to film some content, and then do some further processing. They were an exploration program that leaned towards science and education, but they were definitely not a real science and education program. Actually, the core of the show was still an entertainment program, so it was natural to add some specious legends and supernatural interpretations. In any case, it was just cultural processing, and some legends were not scientifically verified. On the other hand, Chun Zhao set off with the film crew to Gondu Island. In Chun Zhao's own words, it was a hobby of rich people. Of course, to compensate the team, Chun Zhao gave them $500,000. The money was given directly to Falui Lysander. In this team, Falui Lysander had the absolute right to speak. Therefore, it was necessary to build a good relationship with him. Mr. Chun, although I've never been to Gondu Island, I've sent people to the coastal settlements nearby to communicate with the villagers. It's said that the environment on Gondu Island is quite harsh, with a large number of venomous snakes and crocodiles, as well as many dangerous natural environments. Therefore, we can't be sure what unexpected situations we'll encounter. Even though we're a professional team, we can't give you any guarantees. You'd better be mentally prepared before you set off. Of course, I understand, Chun Zhao said politely. I've participated in many exploration teams, from Africa to the Amazon to the Caribbean. I left my footprints everywhere. I'm not a veteran, but at least I have some experience. I'll try not to drag the team down. Facing Falui Lysander, Chun Zhao didn't act too overbearing. After all, they were in a cooperative relationship, and he was not his subordinate. Then I wish us success. Falui Lysander was quite satisfied with Chun Zhao's attitude. Moreover, since Chun Zhao had experience, he didn't have to worry about Chun Zhao making rude requests during the process. Falui Lysander had met such people in the past. He had once met a celebrity who participated in a filming project in the wilderness. The celebrity wasn't even an A-list celebrity, but he kept making things difficult for the team and dragging them down. Mr. Chun, do you have anyone with you? No, just me. Oh, good. Also, you have to prepare some equipment yourself. Tell me, I'll remember. Thick rain boots, gloves, a set of outdoor clothes, a thermos Flintstone, a military knife. Of course, if you think it's necessary, you can add a semi-automatic pistol and a few bullets. Is that necessary? Usually not. Our team actually has some armed forces, Falui Lysander said with a smile. But for most amateurs, guns can calm people down. Falui Lysander smiled. Okay, but can you bring guns through customs? No, but Mr. Chun should have a way to get guns in Mexico. Do we need to bring food? We have compressed food. Can't we bring game? There are many uncertain risks associated with wild game, such as the disease it carries, the difficulty of handling it, or the danger it poses. Moreover, there's no guarantee of supply. That's why a film crew like us has to avoid contact with wild game as much as possible when filming in the wilderness. Once a member of the film crew is infected or injured by a wild animal, it'll be a big problem for the film crew. Delaying the filming schedule is a small problem, but more often than not, the film crew will have to face a lot of legal troubles. Can I bring my own food? Mr. Chun, it's best not to. If you bring non-compressed pasta and meat, you'll only be burdening yourself. Your burden will often become the team's burden. You said that you won't cause trouble for the team, so it's best to avoid some things if possible. Okay, Chun Zhao shrugged. Tomorrow's flight at 3 in the afternoon. It'll take 1.5 hours. At night, we'll reach the coastal village where we'll be filming. My people have already inspected the village. It's a good recreational area. There's a small resort there. Mr. Chun, you can rest there for a day. We need a day to film in the village. Okay. In fact, Chun Zhao had already inspected the village. It was indeed a good recreational area. It wasn't much worse than those holiday resorts. However, it didn't have public facilities and was much smaller, so it wasn't famous. Then, Falyu Lysander explained many things to take note of. Falyu Lysander's specialty wasn't in how much safety he knew. It was in his attitude, which was always to be on guard. He would try his best to prevent almost all dangers from happening instead of dealing with them after they happened. If not for the fact that Chun Zhao didn't have any interactions with him, Chun Zhao really wanted to recruit him. Chapter 28:05. You guys go to the village first. I'll leave tomorrow, Chun Zhao said to West and the others. This time, Chun Zhao set off with the filming team. Apart from Chun Zhao, there was also West, Jalanash, Halleys, and unwavering. Chun Zhao followed the filming team to monitor them. Then he sent the schedule and plan to West and the others. Then, the four of them would create some supernatural events. Of course, Chun Zhao would do it himself if necessary. But if he had to, it would be a big scene. Chun Zhao definitely wouldn't let the filming team film something that would cause panic. Some wanted to go, and some didn't. But the one with the biggest reaction was Lindsay Beyonce. It wasn't because she had a fiery temper. It was because she felt that she'd improved a lot recently. She might have a chance to fight this time. Of course, after seeing Chun Zhao fight, she'd given up on competing with him. But she still felt that she was pretty good. She really wanted to find a chance to show off her power. She didn't have any hopes for an ultimate battle. But she still felt that as long as the opponent wasn't a monster like Chun Zhao, she still had the ability to deal with weaker enemies. At least she thought so. Unfortunately, Lin Beyonce's personality was doomed. She was of no use in this operation. They weren't going to fight at all. They were going to pretend to be mysterious. West, Jalanash, Halleys, and unwavering. They all had the ability to create supernatural events in the dark. But what could Beyonce do? Put on animal skin and pretend to be a savage? So, Chun Zhao rejected Lindsay's request to go with the team. Although Lindsay made a scene, Chun Zhao still threw her into the Tower of Trials. However, he was still thrown into the Tower of Trials. "Boss, I want to go too," a rumbling voice said. "Boss, I want to go too." A rumbling voice rang out. The hill was Chun Zhao's first contracted dragon, Sabonis. This hill was Chun Zhao's first contracted dragon, Sabonis. It was Chun Zhao's first contracted dragon, Sabonis. But after he was brought out of the tower, he disguised himself as a hill and hid behind the headquarters. "What are you doing? You can't go." Chun Zhao rejected Sabonis' request. West and the others stopped talking. They had no right to interrupt Chun Zhao's son, although they knew what Sabonis was thinking. Although they also felt sorry for Sabonis. However, they had no right to speak here. Ever since Sabonis became Chun Zhao's contract pet, he had been pretending to be a small mountain here. Several times, Sabonis had requested to sneak out for a stroll at night. Even if it was just to spread his wings and soar above Los Angeles, it would be enough. Furthermore, it was guaranteed that it would not cause any disturbance. But West didn't dare to take the risk. After all, it was a giant dragon, and a giant dragon that did not know how to transform into a human. Even at night, there was a possibility of being discovered. At that time, it would be very troublesome. Moreover, Chun Zhao wasn't here, so they didn't dare to make decisions for him. Therefore, he rejected Sabonis' request every time, even if they pitted Sabonis. It was also very difficult to agree to his request. "Boss, I've been a fake mountain here for so long. I want to spread my wings and soar into the sky. You're an earth dragon. How can you fly? Just lie on the ground." Chun Zhao rolled his eyes. "Plus, I don't have to imprison you. You can move freely when you learn shape-shifting magic." Back then, Chun Zhao had wanted to kill Sabonis directly. If Sabonis hadn't licked Chun Zhao's leg in the end, he would probably have become some magic material. Chun Zhao had found it troublesome at the time. Now, West's attitude toward him hadn't changed much. He was still like, if you dare to cause trouble, I'll skin you alive. Sabonis' fear of Chun Zhao was still preserved from the scene of Chun Zhao tearing the 12-headed dragon father apart. Instead, the restriction of the contract became secondary. Boss, I'm not interested in magic. Then you could be a fake mountain forever. Originally, Sabonis had some expectations for his career prospects. No matter what, he was a member of the giant dragon clan. He couldn't compare to Chun Zhao, but he was much stronger than the members of the supernatural organization. There would be a time when he could use Chun Zhao, but reality slapped him hard in the face. Reality was the opposite of his plan. The strong ones wouldn't need his help at all. The weak ones wouldn't need his help at all. So, he was the most useless member of the supernatural organization now. West indeed felt pity for Sabonis. After all, every time Sabonis complained, it was him who did it. West didn't just feel pity for Sabonis. He was also extremely annoyed. No one knew that Sabonis only talked to him at night. Once he started, there would be no end to it. He would constantly talk about his dragon life. Sabonis was 500 years old this year. How many stories would there be in his dragon life? President, I think Sabonis can indeed participate in this mission. The fake mountain behind heard West's words and opened its eyes. When it looked at West, it was filled with gratitude. What can he do? Chun Zhao pursed his lips, his tone full of disapproval for Sabonis. He can create small-scale earthquakes. If this natural phenomenon appears at the right time, it'll be a great topic. Chun Zhao rubbed his chin and thought for a while. But he's so big. Even if he flies at night, he might be discovered by radar. If he passes through the border, I'm afraid he'll be shot down by missiles. Maybe Norma has a way. Norma? Chun Zhao was surprised. What can she do? All the magic that Norma had mastered so far came from her nightmare bloodline. Chun Zhao really didn't know much about Norma's nightmare spells. Norma can turn some objects or living beings invisible. No matter how advanced the radar is, it can avoid detection. Therefore, as long as Sabonis moves at night, Norma can ride him and give him some time to move around. So if Sabonis goes, Norma has to go too. Sabonis has been doing well recently, West said. We should give him some time to move around. Doing well actually meant that he didn't make a fuss and just slept on the ground every day. Besides, the reason why West said that was because he was annoyed by Sabonis. Chapter 28:06. West wasn't Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao could summon Sabonis at his beck and call. West couldn't do that. After all, he was facing a dragon. Sabonis was Chun Zhao's pet. But if he lost his temper when Chun Zhao wasn't here, no one in the supernatural organization could take it. He felt that he should give Sabonis some space to move around. Even humans would get sick if they held it in for too long, let alone a dragon. That was why West spoke up for Sabonis. Chun Zhao thought for a moment and glanced at Sabonis' mountain form. Then he glanced at West. If I do that, he won't learn shape-shifting magic obediently in the future. I can't let Norma clean up after him every time. President, how about we make Sabonis promise that after this, he has to learn shape-shifting magic before he can move freely again. Otherwise, he can't move freely forever. West had good intentions, but Sabonis was hesitant and didn't promise. Sabonis, why are you hesitating? You want to be a bumpkin here forever, right? West urged. Okay, I agree. Boss. Sabonis looked at Chun Zhao pitifully. Smiling, Chun Zhao looked at Sabonis. That's not enough. How about this? If you can't learn transfiguration in 3 months, I'll drain your blood and dry your body. Sabonis nodded. The ground shook again. Sabonis was scared out of his wits. Boss. No, I'm not going. No, since we've already agreed, you can't refuse. Smiling, Chun Zhao looked at Sabonis. Plus, I'm a trustworthy person. If you can't learn it in 3 months, I'll definitely air dry you. It was Norma's first time riding a dragon. Sabonis wasn't very fast, but Norma could still feel the strong wind blowing against her face. She used void form to turn Sabonis' body into nothingness. Nothingness. This was a spell that belonged to Nightmare. It was actually to banish an object or creature's body into the dream world. But this banishment wasn't completely in the dream world. Take Sabonis, for example. His body was in between reality and the dream world. This would avoid physical attacks. Of course, it also made him lose his physical attacks. However, magic could still penetrate this interlayer. This was a spell that Norma had created herself. The principle behind it was not very complicated. Nothingness was not an invincible spell. At least, if Sabonis faced Chun Zhao in this state, he would still be torn to shreds. Sabonis' body didn't disappear completely. To the naked eye, it looked like it had become translucent. However, in this state, even the most advanced radar could not detect Sabonis, because Sabonis' body was not solid. Therefore, it was impossible for others to ride Sabonis in this state. They couldn't touch him at all. Even Chun Zhao couldn't ride him. Only Norma could ride it. It was also because of his state and the fact that it was nighttime. Sabonis hid in the clouds. Therefore, it had a strong concealment ability. Norma glanced at the navigation and looked down. Under the night sky, an island could be vaguely seen on the surface of the sea. If it were someone else, they probably wouldn't be able to see the surface of the sea thousands of meters under the night sky. Only Norma's inhuman vision could see through the night. Below us is Gongdu Island, Norma said, pointing down. Norma pointed down and said, "You have 2 days. You can move freely on Gongdu Island, but you can't leave it. I will stay and supervise you, and I have already located you. If you dare to leave Gongdu Island, I will directly send a message to the president, and then you'll be dried by him." Norma was no longer the blind girl from before. She had long gotten used to her identity. She was also the one who respected Chun Zhao the most in the supernatural organization. "Norma, it's just a small island. I'll fly out of the border in 3 minutes." "Give me a wider area," Sabonis said, feeling wronged. When he was in the supernatural organization, he always hid in the form of a mountain. In reality, he still had contact with people from the supernatural organization. He knew that Norma was the most good-tempered and easy to get along with in the organization. Moreover, Norma was kind and not scheming. He felt that he should have a chance to bargain with her. He should have a chance to bargain with her. "No, your area of activity is only Gongdu Island. Little girl, maybe you should get to know me again. I'm a dragon. I'm not negotiating with you, and you're still on my back." Sabonis' tone suddenly changed. It became condescending with a hint of threat. Norma's reaction was very calm. She took out her phone. "Hello, President. Hey, don't be rash. I'm just joking. Norma, what's wrong? Is Sabonis disobeying you?" "Boss, no, nothing. I'm playing with Norma. She's telling you that we're safe. We're already at Gongdu Island," Sabonis hurriedly called back. "Norma, is that big lizard telling the truth?" "Yes, we're at Gongdu Island. I'll report to you." "Okay. If he's disobedient, call me immediately. We don't have enough dragon materials in our warehouse. I don't mind using him to fill it up." Sabonis broke out in a cold sweat. "Boss, I'll listen to you 100%. Yes, Norma. Yes, listen to Norma." After hanging up, Sabonis finally heaved a sigh of relief. "Don't make it difficult for me," Norma said calmly. Sabonis was helpless. With a demon king like Chun Zhao above his head, he had no right to speak at all. Facing Norma, he had no right to speak at all. As long as you learn shape-shifting magic, the president will allow you to move around. You're the one who doesn't learn it. Don't tell me that you're a dragon with natural magic talent and can't learn shape-shifting magic. The more powerful a creature is, the more painful the process of transforming into a weaker creature with a greater difference in strength will be. Not only that, suppressing one's own power will also be very uncomfortable. The difference in strength between dragons and humans is too great. If possible, I never want to become a human. Humans aren't all weak. The president is very powerful, at least much more powerful than you. Sabonis pursed his lips. Boss is a special case. There are no more than 10 humans who are more powerful than dragons, and he's probably the only one who can reach his level. Norma, why don't I teach you some dragon magic, and you give me more space to move around? How about that? I have a nightmare bloodline. Other types of magic aren't suitable. If I really need it, the president will naturally have a way to get it for me. Chapter 2807. Falui Lysander looked at Chen Zhao in surprise. Mr. Chen, I thought you would arrive at the airport a little later. Be direct. Do you think I'll be late? Indeed, being late is the privilege of you rich people. At the same time, it's also within the range of my tolerance, Falui Lysander said with a smile. Then what can't you tolerate? If you violate the rules in the wilderness, your wealth and influence will allow you to receive preferential treatment in all aspects. This is the power given to you by civilized society, and I agree with this rule. But in the wilderness, your wealth will be useless, so you need to follow my orders. Actually, Falui Lysander was also emphasizing his authority. Chen Zhao did not object to Falui Lysander's attitude. After all, he was doing his duty. Those over there are my team members. You'll need to interact with them in the next few days, so you can go over and familiarize yourself with them now. Chen Zhao nodded. They were still waiting in the departure lounge, so he had enough time to greet the film crew. Chen Zhao walked directly to one of the few females in the team. She was also the prettiest. This woman is not only beautiful, but also fashionably dressed. However, her legs were not the white kind of long legs. Instead, he looked more like an athlete with a sturdy body. Hello, Miss Ryan. I watched your show. The first person Chen Zhao greeted was the team's host. Chen Zhao had done his research on the team beforehand. Ryan Velast was the face of this team. She was not the kind of beautiful vase that dressed to the nines, standing in the center of the stage and talking with fervor and assurance. In fact, most of her performances were in the wild. It could be a desolate desert or a dense jungle. Sometimes, for the sake of the program, she would even do things that ordinary people thought were very dangerous. For example, he could catch a dangerous rattlesnake with his bare hands and explain while holding the rattlesnake. Hello, Mr. Chen. Ryan Vilest had already learned of Chen Zhao's identity from Falui Lysander. Chen Zhao was their sponsor and also a member of the filming crew. Ryan Velast might look polite on the surface, but he knew that he had to be careful. However, Chen Zhao could feel the disdain hidden under her smile. Mr. Chen, the jungle isn't your backyard. Why are you willing to risk your life in such a place? Ryan Velast asked. It seemed like a question, but it was actually an interrogation. You can think of it as me having nowhere to spend my money. Chen Zhao shrugged and replied in a businesslike manner. Maybe you can consider buying that island. That way, you'll have more time to explore that island. I already have an island. Chen Zhao grinned. I won't buy an amusement park just to go to an amusement park. The wilderness is not a playground. You should be cautious and serious about the wilderness. Trust me, your attitude will save your life. I've been to dangerous places such as the African savanna, the Amazon rainforest, or the depths of a desert. I know what danger is. Maybe if you hire enough bodyguards, you can go anywhere in the world unimpeded, but none of our team members are professional bodyguards. Even the people in charge of security work are involved in the filming, so don't expect them to be around you 24/7, especially when you need to go to the bathroom. You might need to zip up your pants alone in the bushes, and you don't know what will come out of the bushes. Maybe it's a monkey, or maybe it's a jaguar. Ms. Ryan seems to misunderstand me. Is it because I'm rich, or because I'm a stranger? Both. I just hope that you won't drag us down. Okay, let's get ready to board. Just then, Falui Lysander walked over and clapped his hands to greet everyone. Mr. Chen, I remember that I asked you to prepare some things yesterday, right? My things were flown to Mexico yesterday. They should be at the seaside resort by now. Okay, we can board the plane now. Their flight destination, Immerse, Hermosillo, was a city in northwestern Mexico. It was the capital of Sonora and also a coastal city. To the west of Hermosillo, 300 kilometers offshore, was Mexico's largest island, Tiburon Island. Tiburon Island was basically responsible for half of Mexico's horror stories. There were a few known cannibal tribes on the island. Of course, their final filming location was not Tiburon Island. There were still people on Tiburon Island, and there were even tourists. Therefore, it was not suitable for their filming location. Gongdu Island was farther from the Mexican coast. It was just an inconspicuous island with an area of less than 40 square kilometers. A few decades ago, there were some primitive tribes living on Gongdu Island. Later, they moved to the nearby coast and basically integrated into the local life. After less than 2 hours of flight, they arrived at Hermosillo. Without stopping, the team rushed to Yorktown and then transferred to Baishawa Village. Baishawa Village was also one of their filming areas. It used to not be called Baishawa Village. Later, it was changed to develop tourism. A quarter of the village's population had been primitive tribes a few decades ago. Not just Gongdu Island, but other islands as well. The village was not big, but there were good tourist attractions, so it was rather standard and safe. The public facilities were good too. It cannot be compared to big cities, but it had all the necessities. There was also a resort in Baishawa Village. When Chun Zhao and the film crew checked into the resort, it was already 10 at night. After checking in, Chun Zhao went to shower and eat right away. However, the film crew had already started their work. Of course, the materials they were filming now were all post-production highlights. They were just the icing on the cake. The official filming would start tomorrow. After a very local dinner, Chun Zhao sat on the open balcony in front of his suite. Outside the balcony was the beach. Ryan Wylist was not far away, filming some scenes with her team. Their attitude towards life and work was completely different from Chun Zhao's. To them, every minute and second had to be grasped. They would never be as carefree as Chun Zhao. One had to admit that they were an excellent team. As a bystander, Chun Zhao saw many good qualities in them. Chapter 28:08. Aren't you going to rest? During the break, Chun Zhao walked to Falui Lysander's side. Falui Lysander wasn't a director in a specific sense. After all, film directors were dealing with actors. The most troublesome ones were kids and pets at most. However, most of the time, Falui Lysander was dealing with nature that wouldn't listen to his orders. Some of the film crew were sitting on the beach, while others were eating and drinking. It seemed like they would continue filming after a short break. Every hour we save is $50,000 for your investors, Falui Lysander said matter-of-factly. Chun Zhao didn't really care about $50,000, but he couldn't help but praise Falui Lysander's words. This was the basic quality of a professional. However, there weren't many teams that could do it. It wasn't without reason that Falui Lysander and his team could become a top team. It was just as Falui Lysander had said. For a team like theirs, if they were 1 or 2 days late, it would be a loss of millions of dollars. Chun Zhao definitely had to pay for it. What if it rains? Chun Zhao asked. As long as it's not a dangerous storm or wave, we have to film normally, Falui Lysander said. Falui Lysander said, Mr. Chun, you seem to be very interested in our filming. Why? Are you planning to invest in this? Just chatting. How's the return in your industry? How's the risk? My team is making money right now, but there's no guarantee. Why? You're such a professional team. Don't you make money? Danger and hardship can't be avoided no matter how hard we try. This leads to a serious loss of people in our industry. Take Lane Vilest, for example. Do you think she's professional? Of course. Her biggest wish is to leave this industry after saving enough money. You should know that she already has a certain level of success and fame in this industry. If she wants to leave this industry, how many of the other ordinary members will be willing to stay? Chun Zhao glanced at Ryan Vilest. I talked to her before. She seems very serious about this industry. It's like she's serving her job as her religion. She doesn't look like someone who wants to leave this industry. Her grandfather died from the drying up of the Sahara Desert. Her father died from a poisonous snake in the Amazon rainforest, and her mother died in the currents of the South Pacific Ocean. Last year, when she was filming a set of scenes, she was attacked by a great white shark and almost died. What makes you think that she would love this industry? Yeah, she's definitely serious. This is an experience that she and her family have exchanged with their lives. That's why she puts in 120% of her effort in any field shoot. But if you're talking about how much she loves this industry, I'm afraid you're wrong. She just doesn't want to die, and she naturally doesn't have a good impression of people like you who treat the wilderness as a tourist attraction. What about you? What's your attitude towards me? Among the rich people I've interacted with, you're the one who left a good impression. At least, I'm very grateful for the $500,000 you've sponsored me. But we haven't officially landed on Gyeongdu Island yet, so I don't know if you'll cause trouble for us. Your performance on Gyeongdu Island has also determined my impression of you. Looks like I really need to perform well. Mr. Chun, investing in this industry is not a good choice. Other than the loss of team members, most of your income depends on the TV station, and their demand may not be able to meet your expenses. This market is not big, and the reason why our team is at the top is not because we are outstanding, but because there are not too many competitors. Mr. Lysander, did you encounter any unexplainable events in your past shoots? Are you talking about supernatural events? Yes, some, but I think that it's just that current science can't explain them, or I can't understand them. They're not real supernatural events. Then what do you think is a real supernatural event, Mr. Lysander? If one day God appears in front of me, or a dead person floats in front of me, I think that would be a supernatural event, not some specious or coincidental event. Chen Zhao smiled and didn't say anything else. Then Fallowy Lysander clapped his hands, telling the team to tidy up and continue shooting. The filming lasted until 2 in the morning before the film crew called it a day. Chen Zhao went back to his room early to rest. In fact, West, Jalanash, Hallies, and Unelite had already arrived at the resort. However, they didn't meet. Even if they did, they would just treat each other as strangers. The next day, the team went to find some local seniors. They were mainly in charge of telling stories. No one cared if the seniors were telling the truth or not. They weren't making a science show, anyway. Some of the stories told by the seniors were realistic and attractive, so they would be edited into the film later on. As for whether it was a story from Gyeongdu Island, who cared? Even if it was a legend or custom from another place, it would be changed after editing. West and the others went to Gyeongdu Island in advance. They had to set up some things on the island. The filming in the White Bunch Flower Village only took a day. What came next was the real highlight. They went to Gyeongdu Island to shoot. The film crew also hired a local as a guide for Gyeongdu Island. The guide had been to Gyeongdu Island a few times. He knew its legends and could speak English. On the third day, the team and Chun Zhao boarded the boat to Gyeongdu Island. Everyone, including Chun Zhao, was dressed neatly and equipped with outdoor equipment. Chun Zhao didn't like turbulence. It seemed that no matter how strong he couldn't overcome seasickness. This was probably Chun Zhao's most obvious weakness. Chun Zhao looked at the guide, who was kneeling on the deck and seemed to be performing some kind of ritual. "What's he doing?" Chun Zhao asked. "He said that the god of the sea doesn't like us. The huge waves today are the god of the sea's warning to us. He's advising us to return now. What do you think?" Smiling, Fallowy Lysander said, "I told him to return the money he took from us. Then he said he'll pray to the god of the sea and ask him to forgive us." Which myth is the god of the sea they believe in? I don't know. He's a descendant of the local natives. They don't have a complete myth system. Almost every tribe has their own beliefs. 9 Heavens God King. Chapter 2809. The native guide had his bottom line. Yes, money was his bottom line. Whatever Chun Zhao and the film crew did on the boat would be punished by the god. Unless they paid. Fishing was $5, smoking was $5, a couple kissing in the cabin was caught by the native guide and had to pay $10. Otherwise, it would be blasphemy to the god of the sea. In the end, it was Fallowy Lysander who showed his power. $200 shut the native guide up completely. Chen Zhao couldn't help but sigh. The god of the sea that the native guide believed in was pitifully cheap. If the god of the sea really appeared before him, he would definitely go to an ATM and withdraw $10,000. He would smash it on the god of the sea's face and see if he would yield. Smashing people with money was really more fun than smashing people with fists. Of course, the voyage of a few hours wasn't enough time for the god of the sea to appear. The film crew's boat had already docked. The dock here was just a simple dock made of a few rotten boards and cement. Basically, a tropical typhoon could make the dock go back and forth. Of course, it was enough for them to go back and forth this time. Chun Zhao scanned the shore. His senses spread to the entire Gyeongdu Island. Soon, Chun Zhao sensed Saboni's aura. Sabonis' aura was the strongest. It was also the first to be discovered by Chun Zhao. The others were all there too. No one was missing. Sabonis continued to act as a fake mountain. This was his job. Falui Lysander began to arrange the filming. The exploration shows and survival shows that the audience had seen on TV all claimed to be real. In reality, many scenes were staged. Even the so-called animal corpses might have been prearranged. At least, Chun Zhao saw that half of what Ryan Velast and the other team members said was from the script. Of course, in this wilderness, an individual's ability to improvise was also needed. For example, if a snake suddenly appeared in the camera, Ryan Velast could quickly control the snake and then tell them the snake species, habits, food, and even poison. This was professionalism. If it were Chun Zhao, he would only say it was a snake. A poisonous snake. It should be extremely poisonous. Chun Zhao followed behind the team and didn't enter the camera. Ryan, there's movement in the bushes on your left. Leave the team there. I think it's a small wild boar. Ryan Velast nonchalantly led the team in the direction Falui Lysander had pointed. When he parted the bushes, there was indeed a half-sized wild boar charging out. Ryan Velast was mentally prepared. He calmly raised his leg and kicked the boar's head. The wild boar immediately lay on the ground and tried to stand up shakily. The others immediately went forward to suppress the wild boar. Looks like we'll have something to eat tonight. Ryan Velast smiled at the camera. This is a subspecies of North American wild boar, a mountain wild boar. Don't be fooled by its small size. In fact, it's already an adult. In such an environment, it's already a rare delicacy. Of course, it's not a protected animal. Okay, this scene is over. You could disembowel this guy now. Falui Lysander waved his hand. Of course, the scene of disemboweling would not be shown on camera. Chun Zhao suddenly saw a plant. He parted the bushes and reached out to pick it. Stop! Falui Lysander yelled. What's wrong? Chun Zhao turned around and looked at Falui Lysander in confusion. This is spicy grass. It's extremely poisonous. Do you want to die? Mr. Falui, I'm a professor of medicine, and I'm also proficient in Chinese herbal medicine. I know what this thing is. The scientific name of this thing is lily of the valley, not spicy grass. Spicy grass and lily of the valley belong to the same family, but different species. However, if you carefully distinguish the difference between lily of the valley and spicy grass, you can tell the difference between the two. Spicy grass leaves are smaller, and the stem has thin thorns, while lily of the valley can be eaten directly and is also a very good medicinal herb. Chun Zhao reached out and picked the lily of the valley. Of course, with your rules, you can't randomly throw plants into your mouth in the wild. Falui Lysander was dumbfounded by Chun Zhao's words. In the end, he shrugged helplessly. Fine, I'm indeed not as good as you in botany. What Falui Lysander was really satisfied with was Chun Zhao's attitude. Although he was sure that it was lily of the valley and not spicy grass, he didn't eat it to confirm it. If Mr. Chun is interested, you can become my temporary team member, Falui Lysander said tentatively. Actually, he didn't have any hope at all. After all, Chun Zhao was rich, a very rich one at that. Exploring with his team didn't mean that he would be a member of the film crew. I'm an amateur. Our team lacks an expert who's familiar with plants, Falui Lysander said. I just hope that you won't make me pay $500,000 the next time I come. Of course, Chun Zhao wouldn't really become a member of the film crew. Instead of living a good life, he would go into the forest all day. Chun Zhao didn't think that he was that stupid. Even this time, other than having other plans, Chun Zhao also wanted to have fun. He didn't want to go from an amateur to a professional. Just think about it. Even a professional like Ryan Velast wanted to leave this industry. How many amateurs would be willing to enter this industry? Just then, a strong gust of wind blew in front of them. It was so strong that everyone, caught off guard, fell to the ground. Apart from Chun Zhao, more than 10 people were lying on the ground. Some equipment had also fallen to the ground. The scene was a mess. Damn, where did such a strong wind come from? Sometimes, sea breezes are just that strong, Chun Zhao said with a shrug. No, the direction of the wind isn't right. Ryan Velas frowned and said, "When I came ashore just now, I already remembered the wind direction. The sea breeze just now was from the southwest, but the wind just now was blowing in the opposite direction. This wind is very unusual." "Maybe you remembered wrong," Chen Zhao said casually. "I'm a professional. Don't doubt a professional's judgment," Ryan Velas said coldly. "Ryan, come here," Falui Lysander called. "There's something here. You're going to enter the camera." When Ryan Velas came to the front, he saw some messy rocks. The rocks had obvious marks of being carved and were covered in moss. They looked very old. Most of the rocks were half submerged in the ground, only revealing a corner. This place might have been a relic in the past. Ryan Velas started her professional speech again. She could go on and on about everything. Logically speaking, this area should be under the influence of the ancient Aztec civilization, but the patterns on the rocks look like ancient Greek style. Chapter 28:10. Lane Vilest wasn't an archaeologist. She wasn't an expert either. She just knew. As the face of an exploration film crew, he was the face of an exploration film crew. If she only has a beautiful face, even the audience would change the channel, let alone the film crew. She had both a beautiful face and enough knowledge, which added a lot of points to her career. Those who were willing to watch exploration shows would watch professional content. Those who didn't have a strong desire for exploration shows would also choose to stay because of her pretty face. A few more minutes might be enough to lure them into a trap. This was the problem of the show's popularity. Ryan Velas was the top courtesan of the exploration show in the entertainment circle, and it was not an undeserved reputation. Her biggest wish was to use this as a springboard to become a host for other shows. She might even be able to step into the entertainment industry. Chen Zhao stood at the back, avoiding a few cameras. These stones were definitely fake. He just didn't know how West and the others had done it. If Chen Zhao hadn't known beforehand, even he would have been fooled. At least, he couldn't see any flaws. Do you see this? This pattern is the typical samurai pattern of ancient Greece. Many pillars in the famous Parthenon temple use this pattern. Lane Vilest purposely raised her voice, filled with surprise and surprise. "Unbelievable. This is unbelievable. Why are there Greek-style stone sculptures here? Mr. Guide, can you explain the situation here?" The guide's face was filled with confusion. He'd been here before, but he hadn't seen these stones before. So, he couldn't explain it all. For the film crew and Falui Lysander, this discovery was undoubtedly a pleasant surprise. A real surprise. Of course, if they could make more discoveries, they'd really make a fortune. Once the show became popular, their team would rise to another level. There seems to be a building up ahead. Lane Vilest pointed ahead, deep into the forest. Her eyes were filled with excitement. Chen Zhao didn't know if her excitement was real or fake. Just as the team was about to continue forward, another strange wind blew. The defenseless crowd was blown away once again. The two consecutive strange gusts of wind caused everyone to feel apprehensive. "This is a warning from God. We cannot proceed any further," the native guide said loudly. "We can't stop filming just because of what you said," Falui Lysander said. Everyone regrouped and moved forward again. At this moment, the ground trembled slightly. Suddenly, a large number of startled birds appeared in the sky above the forest. They let out strange cries and flew away. The forest rustled, and the atmosphere was a little strange. Ryan Velas and a few other team members turned to look at Falui Lysander. "Keep going," Falui Lysander said in a determined tone. After advancing for a few minutes, a jaguar suddenly rushed out in front of them. "Halt! Be on guard." Everyone broke out in a cold sweat. Jaguars were the largest feline animals on the American continent. They posed a great threat to humans, even more than brown bears and wolves. Of course, there were so many of them, and some of them were armed. But even so, they were still afraid. Just when the people in charge of security were hesitating about whether or not to shoot, a voice suddenly rang out. 3 more jaguars appeared from the same direction, all of them adults. "Don't panic, don't panic. The jaguars won't dare to attack so many of us directly," Falui Lysander shouted. The four jaguars suddenly went around the team and ran in the opposite direction. What's going on? It doesn't seem like they plan to attack us. Good, good. If they wanted to attack us, someone in our team might get hurt. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Falui Lysander was also secretly glad. However, cats were naturally neurotic, and they often did illogical things. But before they could relax, another dozen crocodiles crawled out in front of the team. Oh no, no one understood what was going on. The dozen crocodiles of various sizes crawled away from the two sides of the team. Everyone looked at each other, not understanding what was going on, but they all vaguely felt that something was amiss. Falui Lysander frowned and was about to give the order to continue forward. But something happened in front of them again. Large numbers of wild boars, deer, dogs, badgers, and snakes fled from the forest. Their paths were surprisingly consistent with the jaguars and crocodiles in front of them. What's going on? I think these animals are scared by something. I believe those herbivores are scared, but what can scare crocodiles and jaguars? Cougars? That's not funny at all. Everyone discussed one after another. Falui Lysander told the team to rest for a while before continuing. At this moment, his curiosity was piqued. He was also looking forward to filming something special. As for safety, it wasn't that important in front of Prophet. In fact, the previous scenes had already been edited and broadcasted. But it wasn't enough to satisfy Falui Lysander's appetite. He wanted to film more things. Chen Zhao glanced at the sky. The startled birds were still scurrying around. Chen Zhao hid his hands behind him and pressed down. The birds in the sky seemed to have been attacked by something. It was as if it was raining, falling continuously. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. At this time, if there were still people who could not feel this strange situation, then their brains were really not fully developed. Mr. Falui, are we still moving forward? One of the members in charge of filming turned to look at Falui Lysander worriedly. Did you record the scene just now? Falui Lysander asked. Yes. Then let's keep going. But don't you want to be famous? Think about it. If we broadcast this, how much profit will it bring? Everyone here, you, me, all of us will be noticed by everyone. Everyone was still convinced by the future that Falui Lysander had outlined, including Lane Vilest. In fact, her desire wasn't any less than Falui Lysander's. She wanted to be famous more. There seemed to be such a chance before her. In the team, the only one who backed out was the native guide. After failing to persuade Falui, he ran out of the forest, muttering to himself. When he left, Falui Lysander said, "Take a picture of that guy's back. Add some captions and cut it in later." Chapter 28:11. An escaped native guide was obviously a good gimmick. Although some people were nervous, some were uneasy. Most people still wanted to go check it out. Falui Lysander picked up a dead bird. It looked like it had been squashed to death. But how could it be squashed to death in the sky? But this was an unexplainable mystery. There might never be an answer. Just then, they heard the sound of water. Not long after, everyone saw a pool of water. A waterfall rushed down from the cliff, and the sound of water they heard came from the waterfall. The pool wasn't big, probably only a few dozen square meters. There was a protruding rock in the middle of the pool. And the strangest thing was that there was a golden trident stuck in the rock. Is that the trident of the sea cucumber Poseidon? Don't joke around. That thing looks like a prop that someone deliberately placed there. Is someone messing with us? At this moment, a vortex-like black cloud appeared in the sky above the pool. With the pool as the center, it spread out in circles. Point the camera at the sky and capture this strange scene. Mr. Falui, do you want me to take down that golden trident? Ryan Velast looked at Falui Lysander with eager eyes. Wait, there seems to be something in the water, Falui Lysander said cautiously. Water? Ryan Velast frowned and looked into the water. Snake! Snake! A team member who had been close to the pool suddenly yelled and retreated. A ferocious snake head popped out of the water. Anaconda! Almost everyone in the team knew the world's largest snake. As members of the Discovery Program's crew, they had all seen an anaconda. It was the only snake in the world that had the ability to swallow an adult. Adult anacondas were generally over 4 meters long, and the largest and longest anaconda found by humans could reach 7 meters. But it was said that in the Amazon rainforest, there were even larger and longer anacondas. And the anaconda in front of them was clearly the super one. It was at least 8 meters long. Its movements weren't fast, but it carried a fatal pressure. Ryan Velast was also scared to the point of breaking out in a cold sweat. If she had risked going into the water just now, she might have been hanged by this forest serpent. One should never doubt the lethality of forest boas. Adult forest boas could even strangle water buffaloes to death. As for humans, they were not even their biggest food source. Even adult caimans were in their diet. As for the super standard senpai in front of them, its menu would be more extensive. Perhaps their eating speed was very slow, but their killing speed was absolutely top-notch. As long as a human was entangled by the anacondas, it would only take 10 seconds for the anacondas to crush their internal organs. It was as easy as a human popping an egg. Fortunately, the forest boa did not come ashore. Otherwise, it would be very troublesome to deal with this big guy. However, it was also quite troublesome in the water. The anaconda swam slowly in the pool, then climbed onto the rock in the middle of the pool, its huge body wrapped around the golden trident. It looks like the guardian of the artifact. Maybe that really is the trident of the sea cucumber Poseidon. Ooh! At this moment, a whistling sound came from above their heads. When they looked up, they saw an extremely fast black shadow flash across the treetops. However, because of its extreme speed, it was beyond the limits of what the human eye could capture. Therefore, they could not see what it was at all. Pekka, you used a high-powered camera. Did you get any images? Let me see. Pekka turned on the playback function of the camera. Chun Zhao frowned. He actually did not know that the person was using a high-powered camera. The black shadow just now was an elite in disguise. Chun Zhao did not know if it had been captured. Mr. Falui, I didn't get the full picture. I only saw a vague black shadow. What animal is it? A monkey? No. Although the number of frames is low, I can vaguely tell that it's a human shape. It's definitely not wearing clothes. It looks more like a body wrapped in grass or animal skin. Could it be the same as that giant snake, a wild beast that protects the divine artifact? Falui Lysander's eyes flashed, his expression hesitant. Everything in front of him indicated that the golden trident place there was very likely to be the real deal. Even if it was not Poseidon's, it probably had great research value. Falui Lysander looked around. He was not willing to leave just like this. Use the gun to shoot the anaconda. Ooh. As soon as Falui Lysander finished speaking, a strong gust of wind blew past without any warning. Everyone swayed from side to side again. Moreover, unlike before, the gale this time was continuous. The surrounding trees were also rustling in the strong wind. Damn, where did this wind come from? Everyone could not even raise their heads. Some people even lay on the ground, waiting for the wind to stop. But before the strange wind could subside, the ground started shaking again. This time, the tremors were much more obvious than before. The water in the pond started churning too. The stone in the center of the pond was sinking along with the golden trident. Look, that thing is going to sink, Ryan Velast shouted anxiously. But no one could do anything. The super anaconda was still on the golden trident. Ryan Weilis' mind was blank. She wanted to be famous, no matter the cost. Just then, Ryan suddenly sped up and charged toward the pond. Ryan, come back. Falui Lysander was scared out of his wits. Was Ryan Velast seeking his own death? The supersized forest anaconda in the middle of the pool also noticed Ryan Velast. It couldn't help but raise its head and slightly open its bloody mouth. Chun Zhao frowned. Who knew where West had gotten this anaconda from? It was not the kind of pet that could be tamed. It was just a wild beast that could really devour humans. Ryan would only be committing suicide if he charged over like this. Chun Zhao pressed down with his sneaky palm. Ryan, who had already jumped, suddenly felt an invisible force fall on his head. Splash! Ryan Velast fell head first into the water. Everyone was a little surprised. The scene of Ryan Velast falling into the water did not make sense. Ryan Velast could jump more than 7 meters when he sprinted. But just now, after Ryan Velast took off, he suddenly plummeted from 2 meters away. This clearly violated the laws of physics. Chapter 28:12. Falui Lysander rushed to the shore and grabbed Ryan Velast. At the same time, he grabbed a rope with his other hand. Pull it back. Let go. That's our chance to become famous. Ryan Velast yelled excitedly. Ryan Velast yelled. If you want to die, you better find a place with no one around. Ryan Velast's eyes were still red, but it seemed like she didn't want to die anymore. The two were pulled up by the team members on the shore. Even so, she still couldn't forget about the golden trident in the pond. Chen Zhao also had a new view of Ryan Velast. This woman was willing to die for fame. Although Falui Lysander also wanted to be famous, he also wanted to get rich. But his desire had never surpassed his rationality. He still looked at everything rationally. He didn't view fame as more important than his life. Enough, Ryan. What we filmed is enough for you to be famous, Falui Lysander said. Also, your actions just now can be edited to make you stand out more, Falui Lysander said. After hearing Falui Lysander's words, Ryan Velast gave a slight evaluation of the situation. However, her eyes were still filled with longing for the golden trident. But by then, the golden trident had already sunk into the pond along with the floating rock, completely disappearing. Her eyes were still filled with unwillingness. Falui Lysander and the other two members guarded her to the death. They were afraid that she would take things too hard and dive in. Ryan, do you want to live and enjoy the fame and fortune that comes with being famous? Or do you want me to help you receive your wealth and glory after you die? Ryan Velast cursed under his breath and finally gave up on the idea of jumping down. Seeing that Ryan Velast had given up on the idea, Falui Lysander heaved a sigh of relief. If anyone in the team died, it would be a disaster for the team. If it was Ryan Velast, it wouldn't just be a disaster. It would be the end of the world. If the host of a film team died during a filming mission, no matter what the reason was, the team would have to face disbandment. Falui Lysander suddenly looked at Chen Zhao. He realized that Chen Zhao had remained calm from the beginning to the end. Even when facing the golden trident, he still had a faint smile on his face. It didn't matter if the golden trident was Poseidon's weapon or not. At least the strange sight was real. Any normal person would have some reaction. Why wasn't he reacting at all? Feeling Falui's gaze, Chen Zhao smiled at him. Mr. Chen. Falui Lysander walked over. You're not interested in that? No, I was scared out of my wits. Don't be fooled by how calm I look now. In fact, my legs went soft just now. Is that so? Mr. Chen, your reaction seems to be different from a normal person's. Then what kind of reaction do you want me to make? Yelling? Or, like Miss Ryan, jump into the pool without a care for her life? Apart from the shock, you don't have any other ideas? Hee. So what if I want it? If I want it, can you help me get it? Can you help me deal with that big snake? Chen Zhao's words were reasonable. However, his extremely calm performance still made Falui Lysander suspicious. Nevertheless, Falui Lysander didn't pursue the question further. Fortunately, Chen Zhao didn't go crazy like Ryan Velast. Otherwise, it wouldn't end well. Falui Lysander was in charge here. But if Chen Zhao used a large prize to lure his teammates into the water, some people might really take the risk. At least, Falui Lysander felt that if he had the chance, he had to take the golden trident for himself. Mr. Chen, you're really lucky this time. Falui Lysander changed the topic. After all, this is an extremely rare material. If it's edited well, it can definitely cause a sensation. It's not just my luck. It's a win-win situation. Chen Zhao was all smiles. Falui Lysander didn't plan on taking the material for himself either. Following the contract was the rule of the industry. If the team had to raise the price just because they got something good, they wouldn't just be ostracized by the entire industry and the TV station. Chen Zhao and the TV station's lawyer could sue them until they doubted their lives. According to the law, everything they were filming now belonged to Chun Zhao. At the same time, Falui Lysander agreed with Chun Zhao. It was a win-win situation. No, all three parties benefited. Chun Zhao was the investor and copyright owner. SCTV was in charge of broadcasting. Also, the team in charge of filming would be able to reap huge benefits. Of course, they didn't know how much they could get. Suddenly, the ground started shaking violently again. This time, it was even more intense than the previous ones. Everyone couldn't stand steadily. Chun Zhao had to pretend that he couldn't stand and fall onto the ground. After all, it was such a strong tremor. If Chun Zhao was still standing steadily, he would not have been able to escape. Even an idiot would know that something was wrong with Chun Zhao. At the same time, the surrounding trees started falling continuously. Large numbers of them fell to the ground, just like dominoes falling down. Large amounts of mud and rocks rushed down from the waterfall into the pool. It didn't take long for the terrain to completely change. The mud and rocks buried the small pool completely. Everyone stood up in a sorry state. After experiencing all the unbelievable things before, Falui Lysander felt that this earthquake wasn't normal either. He immediately said to his subordinate, "Also, use the drone to take a panoramic view of the area." It would have been better if he didn't see it. After seeing it, everyone was in disbelief. With the pool as the center, the dense forest formed an empty space with a diameter of thousands of meters. All the trees in this area had fallen. It wouldn't be strange at all if the trees had fallen because of the earthquake. However, the strange thing was that these fallen trees formed a huge circle. They also saw something even more unbelievable from the panoramic view captured by the drone. The fallen trees seemed to be arranged in an indecipherable pattern. It was like a crop circle, but it was much more complicated than a crop circle. Unbelievable. This is really unbelievable. This can't be a coincidence. There must be a mysterious power here that caused all this. Ryan Velast seized the chance and went straight into filming mode. He spoke to the camera in an excited and high-pitched voice. There was no script or lines, but Ryan Velast knew what to say to attract the audience. Chapter 28:13. In their team, there were people more professional than Ryan Velast, but there really wasn't anyone more eloquent than Ryan Velast, and who was also on camera. That was why Ryan Velast was so precious. Also, there was her psychological quality. She could readjust her emotions and state in any situation. This was her most outstanding quality. Many people would lose control and rationality when they panicked or were frightened. In our world, there is still some incomprehensible power. Maybe in the future when technology is developed enough, we can solve it, but definitely not now. Ryan Velast seemed to be completely unaffected by the previous accident as he spoke confidently in front of the camera. Give Ryan a close-up for 45 seconds, then zoom up and film his explanation from a bird's-eye view, Falui Lysander ordered the team. After 5 hours of filming, the sky gradually darkened. They went to the beach to set up camp to rest. Generally speaking, if they were going to sleep in the wild, they wouldn't choose to camp on the beach, because without shelter, the sea breeze would bring a lot of trouble to sleeping in the wild. Also, the weather at sea was very unstable. No one knew when you would be showered with a soul-cleansing downpour. Or perhaps it was a storm that left no traces behind. But Falui Lysander finally decided to set up camp on the beach. The main reason was that the situation in the woods was unclear. Right now, all the wild animals on the island were in a state of panic. No one knew if they would be attacked by wild animals at night. And in the woods, if they were attacked by wild animals, they were likely to encounter great trouble. At least the view was wider on the beach. Although it was camping in the wild, the film team still needed to film some scenes of sleeping in the wilderness. It was like they were really sleeping in the wilderness. In fact, most of the shows that showed they were sleeping in the wilderness were only shown in front of the camera. They really exposed the team in the wilderness at night without any cover. The risk was too great. Almost no team would take such a risk. This place followed the most primitive laws of nature. Those poisonous insects and beasts would not bite you just because you were famous. Falui Lysander planned to film on Gondo Island for 3 days, although the first day brought him quite a surprise. But the plan wouldn't change. At the moment, they did not have enough material to shoot. Moreover, the material they filmed today would not be in the first episode, because 3 episodes were a unit. If the first episode was filled with all sorts of supernatural scenes and content, and the second and third episodes returned to mediocrity, then it would only lose its appeal to the general audience. Therefore, the content of today's filming was likely to be split up. Furthermore, the truly important content would be placed in the second and third episodes. Moreover, it was done with enough suspense, leaving room for people to speculate. As for why they were in the territory of the Inca and Mayan civilizations, there will be traces of ancient Greek civilization. That would depend on how they would edit and justify themselves. Chun Zhao never doubted their professionalism and abilities. In fact, this was a basic operation for any program production team. Most of the content that ordinary viewers saw on TV was edited. Sometimes, the content that the audience saw was actually very different from the actual situation. Although it was only a temporary camp, the quality of life did not return to its original state. They still had a lot of supplies on board, enough for them not to starve in the wilderness. As for the things that Falui Lysander had Chun Zhao prepare, they were actually just preparations. They did not really have to use them. For example, the compressed food that Chun Zhao had prepared was still packaged. Chun Zhao did not plan on opening it. "Mr. Chun, you caught this big fish?" Falui Lysander looked at the tuna that Chun Zhao was dragging in disbelief. It was at least 100 kilograms. If the tuna was not still alive, he would have suspected that Chun Zhao had prepared it beforehand. Of course, many of your subordinates saw it. "You're too lucky," Falui Lysander said in shock. "A big fish like this almost never gets close to the shoreline. Why do one have to go to the deep waters to fish?" It was because it was almost impossible to catch a big fish on the shoreline. It was not absolutely impossible, but the probability was very small. After all, Falui Lysander was a wilderness expert. He naturally knew how much luck Chun Zhao needed to catch a big fish. Also, look at this 100-kilogram tuna. Dragging it out of the water also required a lot of strength. It could even reach 200 kilograms in the water. In fact, if Falui Lysander saw the process of Chun Zhao fishing and dragging the rod, he would be speechless, because Chun Zhao was completely fishing for a small loach. During dinner, with this tuna as a side dish, the team still had a good meal. Even if there were more than 20 people, they still wouldn't be able to finish a fish that weighed more than 100 kilograms. After cleaning the organs and scales, there were at least 70 kilograms of edible parts left. In the end, Chun Zhao had to finish all the remaining tuna. At home, Chun Zhao was basically in charge of cleaning up. At home, Chun Zhao had beef, mutton, and fish on the table every day. They were all self-sufficient. Apart from when they were slaughtered, they would be given to the slaughterhouse in town. Chun Zhao had a lot of people at home. Apart from Falui and the children, there were also dozens of underlings and pets. So, when Chun Zhao was at home, he needed at least 5 cows and 20 sheep every day. After eating and drinking to their heart's content, everyone in the campsite started chatting. The moon was bright and the clouds were parting. The sky was extremely clear. Under the starry sky, although everyone was tired, they were still in high spirits. Chun Zhao and Falui Lysander sat on a rock and chatted. "Mr. Falui, do you still believe in the supernatural now?" Falui Lysander glanced at Chun Zhao. "Mr. Chun, did you already know that there were these things on this island?" Falui Lysander remembered that after he'd signed with SCTV had requested that his first filming location be Gongdu Island. They'd also specified that it had to be Gongdu Island. Apparently, it was a request from the investors. At the time, Falui Lysander hadn't thought much about it, but now that he thought about it, he felt that Chun Zhao probably knew this would happen. Also, when it happened, Chun Zhao's reaction was so calm that it defied logic. Shouldn't he be panicking and at a loss like everyone else? That's not important. Chun Zhao chuckled. You got good material, and I can recoup my investment. SCTV can get good ratings. That's the result of making a profit, right? Chapter 28:14. Falyu Lysander had guessed. Everything that had happened today might have been Chun Zhao's plan. But some things could be arranged. Some things definitely couldn't be arranged with current technology. For example, an earthquake of that magnitude was enough to be used as a weapon. If there really was such a weapon, it would definitely cause a world war. Even if there was, Chun Zhao couldn't get it. Also, the strange phenomenon of the ring-shaped clouds in the sky didn't seem man-made either. Suddenly, Falyu Lysander heard someone exclaim. Falyu Lysander didn't know what was going on. Then, he heard the howls of beasts in the forest. The most obvious was the howl of wolves. There were also many beasts that he had heard before, and some he hadn't. Falyu Lysander immediately stood up. Camera! Camera! Turn on the camera and record the scene in the forest. Turn on the recording device, too. Head, look at the sea. Falyu Lysander turned to the sea in surprise. On the surface of the sea, black dots of various sizes were constantly leaping up and down. What's that? A fish tide, Chun Zhao said. It usually happens in the sea. When a fish tide happens near the sea, it usually means a tsunami. Falyu Lysander's eyes widened. The light in his eyes gradually turned from shock to fear. It was his first time facing a possible tsunami. The water on the coastline was really retreating. Everyone, retreat into the forest immediately and find high place. Hurry! Hurry! Falyu Lysander yelled. He couldn't see the tsunami yet, but the signs of the water retreating and the noises on the surface proved that they were about to face a tsunami. It might be an extremely shocking one. Thankfully, Gongdu Island wasn't big, but there were many high places. They soon found a place to stop on a mountain that wasn't too tall or short. Just then, they could see a white line on the coastline under the moonlight and starry sky. The tsunami was really coming. I think it's 20 meters, a team member said. However, the tsunami was still very far away. He didn't have professional tools to measure it. He could only judge based on his own senses. What was 20 meters? It was close to the highest tsunami in history. In human terms, it was about 6 stories tall. A 6-story tall tsunami was definitely in existence that could destroy anything. The first thing that came into contact with Gongdu Island was not the tsunami, but the howling wind. At the same time, the tsunami also brought along a huge airflow. All the trees on the island were blown over. The heavy responsibility at the top of the hill could only lie on the ground. He couldn't even lift his head due to the strong wind. Only the cameraman, who was in charge of operating the camera, continued to shoot. Chun Zhao secretly took care of them. After all, Chun Zhao had created such a big scene. It wasn't just for them to see. It was for the TV audience. When the tsunami reached the coastline of Gongdu Island, everyone was shocked. Because it was not a 20-meter tsunami, but a 40-meter tsunami. Of course, with the height they were at, there was no need to worry about tsunami attacks, unless the tsunami could reach 100 meters. However, if there really was a tsunami at 100 meters, they basically didn't have to worry about the tsunami because they might have to worry about the end of the world. For them, a 40-meter tsunami was no longer a tsunami, but a historical event. They were facing the emergence of a new historical record. The entire Gongdu Island trembled in front of this tsunami that represented historical records. Look, what's that? Everyone looked over. They could vaguely see a huge shadow in the water curtain raised by the tsunami. That huge black shadow was not the shadow of the sea, nor was it a stone or something like that. It was a living thing. It wiggled its body in the water curtain and then disappeared. But most people saw that thing. It was huge. Shockingly huge. Did you film it? Did you film it? Did you film it? Falyu Lysander asked anxiously. I filmed it. I filmed it too. I filmed it. Chun Zhao's lips curled into a smile. He had asked Amon to appear, of course, to create a sensation. He didn't need to reveal his true form. Just a glimpse was enough. Only then could it create a greater effect, because that moment would bring about a heated discussion. If it revealed its true form, it wouldn't just cause heated discussion. It might cause panic. In the past 6 months, Amon hadn't grown bigger. Instead, he'd shrunk. At his peak, Amon was more than 1,000 meters tall and weighed almost 1,000,000 tons. As a result, he could only move around the Mariana Trench. Because he was in shallow waters, a flip would cause a huge wave. So, there had been some video sightings last year. Of course, those sightings were huge waves that appeared out of nowhere. But half a year ago, his power had increased by leaps and bounds. The sudden increase in power had caused his body to grow in reverse. In his normal state, his length had shrunk to around 500 meters. His weight had also decreased to 300,000 tons. He was 68 meters tall. He also had the ability to change his body shape, but it couldn't last long. He could shrink his body to 200 meters, but that could only last for 30 minutes. The glimpse just now was what he looked like when he shrunk to his limit. Although it was only 200 meters, he was already a giant. No creature on Earth could grow to this level. Chun Zhao had Amon shrink, mainly because the tsunami couldn't accommodate his body. If he was released in his normal 500-meter tall form, the tsunami wouldn't be able to cover his height. He would be taller and longer than the largest ship in the world. Falui Lysander trembled in the strong wind. But it wasn't because of fear. It was because of excitement. This was an unprecedented event, and he was the one who recorded it and discovered it. He, as well as his team, would gain both fame and fortune from this. Falui Lysander looked at Chun Zhao subconsciously. Chun Zhao also looked at him and gave him a smile. He seemed to be mouthing, "Good job." Falui Lysander frowned, but he didn't think too much about it. Chun Zhao's calm reaction was indeed unusual. But at the moment, he was about to lose his mind from the predictable success. Of course, the most important thing now was to protect the results and not have any casualties. Otherwise, it would be very troublesome. Chapter 28:15. The next day, when the sun shone on Gongdu Island, everyone felt like they had been reborn. Actually, the tsunami last night wasn't that scary to them. After all, they were on the top of the mountain. Unless the tsunami destroyed the entire island, they wouldn't be hurt. Also, the terrain of Gongdu Island meant that it wouldn't cause any damage. At most, it would destroy some of the forest soil. When the tsunami washed ashore last night, about half of Gongdu Island was submerged in seawater. In such salty soil, all the plants there would die. Only after a few decades would the salinity in the soil degrade and plants would grow again. Chun Zhao didn't feel guilty about the damage he'd caused. He could just donate a few $100,000 to the local government as compensation. But for the film crew, what happened last night was a magical experience. The entire process could only be described as unbelievable. But their biggest problem now was that the boat had been overturned. No, to be precise, it hadn't been overturned. The boat was now on the ground of Gongdu Island, lying 300 meters from the coastline. Their attempts to contact the outside world all failed. In the end, Chun Zhao had to secretly inform West to find a boat. In the evening of the same day, a ship discovered them. Falui Lysander quickly reached an agreement with the boat owner and agreed to send them inland. By this time, their cameras had recorded more than 200 hours of footage. This was enough for them to edit 3 episodes. There were even some production teams that would cut out an entire season's worth of broadcast time. Of course, to ensure quality, Falui Lysander clearly planned on simplifying the content. He'd condensed the essence into these 3 episodes. Falui Lysander stood on the deck, enjoying the sea breeze with Chun Zhao. "Mr. Chun, where do you think the Lost Civilization should be filmed next?" The progress of the Lost Civilization project was too rushed, mainly because of Chun Zhao's urging. Right now, only Gongdu Island was decided by Chun Zhao. There were still 3 more, but Falui Lysander didn't have any clues yet. Falui Lysander was confident that the content on Gongdu Island would cause a huge sensation. But if they couldn't keep up with the rest of the content, the effect of the Lost Civilization would be greatly reduced. This was also what gave him the biggest headache. He even considered whether or not he should artificially create something. Chun Zhao thought about it and said, "Mysterious Island. Ever since it appeared, it's been the center of public opinion." Mysterious Island? Is it the island that suddenly rose from the bottom of the sea 3 months ago? Yes. No TV crew has been able to land on Mysterious Island. TV stations all over the world want to land on the island, but none of them have been denied. Only a small number of researchers have been able to land on the island, and the equipment they bring with them is restricted. They're not allowed to bring cell phones, video cameras, or cameras. All the photos we have seen so far are provided by the Mysterious Island officials. "I'm the owner of that island," Chun Zhao said. "At least, I'm a major shareholder, so I can decide." Fallowy Lysander froze for a moment, an expression of "I see" appearing on his face. No wonder Chun Zhao was so rich. Everyone knew that the Mysterious Island was a treasure trove the moment it appeared in front of them. Nowadays, any project on the mystical island represented great wealth. It was home to the most amazing food chain and marine life that had ever been discovered. It was like the dinosaur island in Jurassic Park, full of wonders and inconceivability. "Mr. Chun," Fallowy Lysander said casually, "Gongdu Island will also attract attention." Chun Zhao shook his head. "After the show airs, there will indeed be a wave of exploration. But if there are no more discoveries, people's enthusiasm will quickly fade. How do you know that others won't discover anything? The ancestors of the local natives lived on Gongdu Island for hundreds of years, and they rarely encountered such a scene. What do you think are the odds that the researchers and tourists will encounter the day and night that we experience before their enthusiasm wanes?" Chun Zhao said disapprovingly. Also, the Mexican government might list Gongdu Island as a forbidden area and not allow outsiders to get close. This was how most governments handled things. Usually, when supernatural events occurred in certain areas, the government would not develop it into a tourist project. First, they would list it as a forbidden area and then send their own team to investigate and see if they could discover any supernatural powers. This was a normal operation. Every country had such a plan. Secondly, although Mexico was also part of North America, the spiritual world here was more active than in America. The number and quality of people in the spiritual world were also higher than in America. Therefore, it was very likely that the government would explore and develop Gongdu Island themselves. Of course, the local government was doomed to not find anything valuable here. After all supernatural things were man-made. It would be strange if they could find anything. The filming team did not stay in Mexico. That night, they returned to Los Angeles under Chun Zhao's arrangements. This was because Chun Zhao wanted the show to be aired as soon as possible. This was also the condition of the agreement with SCTV. Thus, Fallowy Lysander had to edit 3 episodes as soon as possible. According to the broadcast plan, the first episode would be aired this Saturday night. This kind of broadcast plan was not very beneficial for the show. There was no previous promotion. Even the trailer was cut at the last minute. The broadcast time was less than a week. It was too rushed for the show. However, the trailer had a slogan: "The first show in history to film supernatural scenes." Moreover, the superficial scenes still made the trailer have an unimaginable effect. The first feedback came from a click and play on the internet. The biggest platform had over 1 million views that night and over 10 million views in 24 hours. The video also started to spread around the world. Chun Zhao opened the trailer and watched it. An exploration of civilization, an unbelievable journey. We went on a pilgrimage with reverence. But we were confronted with a sight that was unprecedented in history. The background music in the trailer used a deep and thick voice to describe the unbelievable scenes in the scenes. At the end, the screen in the trailer suddenly turned black, followed by the sound of the tide and a voice with a hint of fear. When we thought we were about to discover the truth, we were greeted by the most terrifying welcome ceremony. We saw the most terrifying side of nature. We have witnessed nature at its worst. Maybe it was the most terrifying side of nature. Maybe it was not nature. Lost civilization. Don't use your worldview to challenge the real world. Chapter 28:16. The trailer for The Lost Civilization didn't last long, but it still caused quite a stir. Of course, a trailer was just a trailer. So, while it was effective, it didn't cause much of an impact. After all, many TV shows like to be mysterious. Who knew if this was another purposely mystifying announcement? Of course, it was still effective. At least, from the feedback from SCTV, the trailer was quite good. As for the ratings, it was hard to say. After all, SCTV was a local TV station. The coverage was rather limited. It didn't even cover all of California. In the past few days, Chun Zhao and the Supernatural organization were still trying to find the core members of the England gang. Although Milo Tanzik Williams and his cronies had disappeared from Los Angeles. But his influence hadn't completely disappeared. In just 2 months, Milo Tanzik Williams had left his mark in Los Angeles. A deep mark. Everyone was afraid of this bloody emperor. Milo Tanzik Williams only took 2 months to do so. He'd erased what Morgery had only managed to do in the past 2 years. Of course, bloody methods could achieve the goal, but there were repercussions. Just like Chun Zhao, if he used the same method, he could achieve the same result. But what about the consequences? From then on, he could only hide in a dark corner and enjoy wine and women. He didn't even dare to contact his family. That was how Milo Tanzik Williams was right now. The government's revenge came so quickly and without warning. Although Milo Tanzik Williams escaped unscathed. However, his forces were also directly wiped out. To put it bluntly, he was a stray dog now. But he was a stray dog. He was qualified. At least he knew how to hide and endure. Chun Zhao dug out almost all his cronies in Los Angeles and tortured them to death. But Milo Tanzik Williams still couldn't come out. Chun Zhao didn't know how many of Milo Tanzik Williams' cronies were left in Los Angeles. There were definitely more, but they were hidden. They weren't as ostentatious as before. Chun Zhao was helpless about this. If he spread out his senses, he could even cover half of Los Angeles. But his senses weren't omnipotent. At least, he couldn't monitor other people's hearts. Now, he could only hope that the broadcast of Lost Civilization could lure Milo Tanzik Williams out. However, Los Angeles was now completely controlled by Tim and Bodhi. Tim was in the light, while Bodhi was in the dark. However, Bodhi's betrayal was public. Chun Zhao hoped to use this to attract Milo Tanzik Williams' subordinates. Unfortunately, apart from the first few days when he attracted a few people, no one else came to die. Of course, Bodhi knew what Chun Zhao wanted, but there was nothing he could do. Chun Zhao's power made it impossible for him to resist and betray Chun Zhao. Saturday night, 2010. The Lost Civilization was finally broadcasted. While the subtitles were still on the screen, the commentator had already started explaining in his deep voice. On the south coast of Mexico, in a village of white bunch flowers. To Mexicans, the white bouquet symbolizes the welcome of friends from afar. However, to the natives of this land, the white bunch flower also symbolized God's gift and gift. In ancient Greece, the white bouquet represented a gift from God. The two seemingly unrelated ancient civilizations formed a connection through the white bunch flower. The TV showed the beautiful scenery of the south coast of Mexico. Finally, the scene changed to the white bunch flower village. Our first stop on our journey of discovery, the white bunch flower village. Ryan, we met an interesting old man. It's said that he migrated from a small island. Really? Where is he? The show was progressing according to the plot. This was also one of the selling points of the show. Then, they found the old man in an old, rundown house. They heard many vivid stories from the old man. Of course, most of the stories told by the old man had been edited, so no one knew if what he said was the original meaning and content. Of course, it didn't matter, but it also misled the audience. The audience thought that the old man would tell a story that matched their understanding. However, the customs and stories were completely different from the Incan or Mayan civilization that they knew. In the story, they believed in the sea god on the island. They fought against the monsters in the sea. Their handicrafts, their skills, and their language were also mentioned. Some things didn't need to be too clear. It was fine as long as it was plausible. Did you notice that the language of the Gongdu people is completely different from the ancient Incan or Mayan language system that we know? Generally speaking, language is a derivative of culture, so the language will have strong traces of regional civilization. However, the language of the Gongdu people is very different from the languages and civilizations of Mexico and even the Americas. Ryan turned to look at his teammate. Winston, you're a language expert. Do you have any professional explanations? Winston nodded. There is indeed a big difference. For people in the field of language, to distinguish the difference between regional languages is not to look at the words used in the language, but through the pronunciation structure. For example, after thousands of years, some people have been separated from a civilization. Their language and culture have changed, but their basic pronunciation will not change. However, the Gongdu people are incompatible with the previous civilization. This means that before they came into contact with a regional civilization, they had already come into contact with other civilizations. This also caused their customs, traditions, language, and beliefs to be incompatible with the regional civilization. Then wouldn't they be excluded or even destroyed by the local civilization? The ancient people didn't know how to distinguish between outsiders and their own people. What's more, the Incan civilization and the Mayan civilization were both extremely complex civilizations. They were not the kind of politically unified countries, but made up of countless tribes with completely different cultures and customs. Because of this, the Mayan civilization and the Incan civilization were destroyed in the end. As a tribal society, the population base was too small to reach the level of a country. Perhaps there were smart people or even geniuses among them, but these smart people and geniuses couldn't adapt to the environment at all, because in that kind of social environment, only the strong were qualified to survive, not the smart. From the perspective of people in our era, of course, we know that the strong are responsible for protection and the smart are responsible for development, but the people of that era didn't understand. Maybe we should go to Gongdu Island to take a look. Maybe there will be more discoveries. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.